But that's
We've got everything we need, so.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it. I'm just sort of learning like you are. I'm like, what the hell? But it's good to know. Get to know.
Mark's checked out. He doesn't come to this thing unless.
Let's give that a little more thought. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Folks, excuse me, folks can take their seats, please.
well, let's figure out what would do first.
Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to open the Personnel Committee meeting at this time. We have one very minor item to discuss, and it's an amendment to the payroll ordinance. During this past negotiations, we increased the shift differential from 50 cents to $1 when a policeman works a afternoon or evening shift. We upped that 50 cents, from 50 cents to $1. The intent was that also to apply to a part-time officer that worked an evening shift or night shift. We overlooked it, and so we have two different rates in different parts of the agreement. So this ordinance would just put the part-time officers at $1 for the shift differential for second and third shifts. It's almost a clerical change. Okay, any questions on it?
I'm okay with it.
Carmen?
I'm fine moving this forward.
Okay, so we will move that forward, and that's the only item that we had. No management update. Mayor's not here, and we adjourn at a record-setting 6:01.
I think that's a land speed record.
Okay, it is 6:02 probably by now, and I'm going to call Public Health and Safety Committee to order. And sorry that I'm fumbling through my paperwork. I was going over some questions, and now I got my stuff out of place, so hold on. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. So first item on the agenda is a dispatch contract with Neomed Police Department. And this is a good thing. This is us going into contract with Neomed. So I'm excited to see that they are joining on with our police department and our dispatch center. Well, not actual the department, but for dispatch services. So Jake is here, our chief, and I'm going to go ahead and let him talk about that.
This is a good thing for our department, just adds to a couple of the dispatch departments that we lost recently in the last 2 or 3 years. This is somebody who comes on. We already dispatched for the fire department in Rootstown. It seems like a good fit for us, and they're excited to come on.
Okay. So any questions, Tyler or Matt?
Yes, do we know what the anticipated call volume might be in addition to our current load?
It's depending, since they are a school. In the summer, there's not a whole lot of call volumes. We're talking, I think, the rate was like 25 calls a month. It's not a whole lot.
Okay, glad to know it's not a burden on our dispatch services.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We okay with moving it, Matt?
Same here.
Tyler? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move this through to Committee of the Whole. Next item on the agenda is the Safety Intervention Grant with a 25% match. This is with the fire department. And this is for them to apply for safety intervention grant through BWC. The grant does require a 25% match up to $5,600. The total cost of this is going to be $17,627.55. They are going after a battery-operated Ram and Milwaukee tool combo kit used for auto extraction and other rescue purposes. There would be a 25% match, and that would come from the small capital line. So it's a good opportunity for them to utilize some of the funds that they do have allocated, but it's a good cost savings if they do get it. And lately, there's been a lot of uses for the ones they have. Any questions, Matt or Tyler?
No.
Okay, seeing no questions, I'm going to go ahead and we will move that forward to Committee of the Whole. Next item would be a contract with JBL Roofing and Construction, and this is for the Police Department. And as many of you know, our safety buildings are basically a hot mess. And so unfortunately, and until we get the matter resolved with being able to hopefully build some new buildings, we still have very expensive equipment in the police department, and they have been Band-Aiding the roof. And I know I was here when that roof was replaced and there was a warranty, and now the warranty is off. So with the amount of rains that we've been having lately, Jake, is there anything you'd like to say about what's going on next door now?
Ironically enough, once JBL came in and the next rain hit, we found 6 new leaks on our roof. One of them which was above the IT room. Luckily, it wasn't into the server room itself. But we have now 6 trash cans in our upstairs and our offices trying to catch the rain. So this was a good thing, much needed.
So with that being said, we needed to authorize the mayor and the police chief to go into a contract for repairs, or whoever we just, make as the designee, for repairs of the police station roof, which is going to total about $58,461.53. I know that's a hard number to swallow right now, but unfortunately, the equipment costs a lot more over there. And again, with electrical issues and everything else, this is money that we have to spend. Any questions?
Amy,
Yes.
I think the price of this was fantastic. We had an additional quote that came in over 6 figures. So
Wow.
This was a very good quote for us.
Okay,
It's still got a 20-year warranty on it.
great.
Is this a complete replacement, Chief?
Yes. Overlay? Sorry.
Overlay.
And that's becoming common more so when you do have a newer roof. I know you can do overlays, and that's great that you can do that, because it is huge in cost savings. So, okay, perfect. So we're okay to move this forward?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move that forward. Next item is going to be pretty simple, no cost required. It's just going to be the adoption of the 2026 Portage County Mitigation Plan. This is a FEMA plan from Ryan Shacklefield. The last time we did this was in 2021. This is what allows us to get FEMA funds. So what we're going to be doing is creating an ordinance, and it's updated every 5 years. Yeah, they update it, do changes, and it is with the county, and this will help us get the FEMA funds. So there's no ask of any financial contributions to this, but we do need it to get FEMA funding for us. So this, everybody okay with moving this forward?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Nothing else on my committee other than the management update. I do want to say that the safety levy is on the ballot now, and there is early voting. And something I really like to stress to everyone is that if you are a senior citizen, you aren't going to be paying taxes on this. So that is kind of,
Let's qualify that.
Yes.
If you're a
Okay,
senior
sorry.
citizen where it only relies on
right,
retirement.
retirement funding. Sorry, that came out a little off. I probably better requote that.
Not
But
due to wages.
there's been, yeah. So there is a lot of questions about that. So I do want some of our seniors to know that if they qualify, that this is going to be an easy pick for them to vote yes for. So there's been a lot of concerns with the seniors and their taxes. So I do want everyone to know that this being on the ballot, it's important to us as we see how the safety building is, completely not ADA compliable. If we were to get a female firefighter, it's going to be really, really tough. Also with, I don't know if anyone has seen the videos out there with some of the things that could be unsafe to our workers. We're working on every day to try to find ways to fix things for them, but I do hope everyone really looks at all the facts that are out there, and if anybody has questions or would like to tour the facility, please get a hold of one of us, and if you would like a sign, get a hold of one of us. We are happy to provide you with that, okay? So with that being said, it's 6:10, and I'm going to call this meeting to the end.
All right. 6:11, I will call the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting to order. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and that is to allow the city to enter into a contract with Parent Asphalt out of Akron. They were the best low bid this year for our annual paving program, which will be just over $1.1 million worth of repairs and work this year on our roads. And that does include sidewalk repairs as well.
Mr. Harper, did we have multiple companies bid on this job?
How many total? I didn't see the,
We have 4 return bids for our project.
And the difference between this one and the next one was what?
So Perrin was at 1.102, 1,102,000. We had 1,128,000, 1,148,000.
Oh.
So 1102 versus 1128.
Wow, really close, really close.
For $1 million project, it's close.
Yeah.
yeah.
Perrin's been an excellent company for us the last time that they did that, so it's very good.
Yeah, and the safety levy, the paving levy that was passed several years ago, we're generating somewhere about 1.2 million, and we pretty much spend that every year on paving or sidewalk-related stuff. So hopefully the taxpayers can appreciate that.
Yeah.
And
think they do.
trust us with the money also.
Any other questions? Go ahead and move that item forward. Under management update, the only thing I may say is it's, as the weather warms up, we're seeing more and more of the electric bikes and scooters out and about. As motorists, please watch for them. We're trying to pull more information together. We'll continue to try and educate the parents and the children and adults that are riding these things to follow the laws and be safe, so.
I think, let me ask you a question, though. Isn't it the law true that they shouldn't be under the age of 18 operating one of those? Is that what it was, Jake, when we were talking about that with the law, with the scooters? Was it 18 or 16?
It depends on which scooter it is. There are 3 classifications for electric bikes. The 2 of them that are under, I think the speed's under 20, you can be a child and operate it. Anything above the one that goes about 20 to 28 or 30 miles an hour, you had to be above 16.
So that's something, too, to caution the parents on what they're buying, because you may be buying them an illegal scooter that they're not allowed to be riding anyway.
Yeah, there's, with the different classifications based on what they can and can't do, there's requirements associated with that. And as we pull that information together, we will distribute that at the schools again, hopefully.
There's also information on the BMV website. I've been looking actually to get a scooter. So I've been exploring like what permit tests and stuff. Hey, gas is going high. I drive around town a lot. So there's a lot of information on the BMV website about it, about what you need.
Okay. That being said, it is 6:14. I will adjourn the Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting.
6:14, I'll start the utility meeting, and there's only one topic on the agenda. That's a 3/4-ton Chevy truck for the water treatment plant. This will be a 2026 model, and it will be replacing an 09 model. This is a 3/4-ton because it will come with a snow plow. They have several places that they do plow other than the water treatment plant itself. This will be coming from, I believe it's Sarshone up in Garrettsville. This is a lower price than state purchase. And they have tried to keep the old one going as long as they possibly can. It's come to a point where it's not cost-worthy. Now, this was custom built according to their specs that they actually need. And the reason 3/4-ton as well is because there are many times they're pulling a good-sized trailer behind the truck. So they need the capacity and this type of truck. And this will have a, I believe it's, yeah, this is going to have a gas engine. Okay, so that is it for this committee.
Yeah, good to move that forward.
Just some, this was, 65,000 was appropriated, so this is coming in $7,497.60 under what was appropriated for that line item.
Yes.
Nice.
Paul, have they determined what they're going to do with the vehicle that it's replacing? Are they going to trade it in, sell it, move it to some other department?
Okay, I was told specifically it will go to an auction. Then the money would stay within the water treatment department itself. Thank you for asking. Okay, I will end this meeting at 6:18.
Is that me? Really? And I will call to order the Community and Economic Development Committee meeting at 6:18 PM. The first item on my agenda is approval of Turk-appointed board members. Tammy, do you want to help me out with this one?
Yes, and this is something that came to our attention when we were having and preparing for the Turk meeting this year. We have one member on the Turk board that was a Kent resident, and so he no longer lives in Ravenna, and it does say that 2 members have to live and reside in Ravenna if they're reviewing these Turk agreements, the CRA agreements, the EZ agreements, and moving them forward. So according to the code, we need 2 members that are appointed by the chief executive officer, which would be the mayor, and then in concurrence with the legislative body is what it says. So whether that means a resolution or an ordinance, we need that to go through you guys for approval. One of the members, Brian Huff, is right now approved by the Portage County Commissioners. He is a resident, though, so he could be one of those members. We are still looking for another member to be part of that board. We only meet once a year to review those CRAs and EZ enterprise agreements. The mayor is looking for somebody, had a couple ideas, but he's not able to talk to that, so we may not be able to do anything with this yet.
And the list of all the members are included in your packet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to move it forward or if you want to,
So-
this is nothing that needs to be approved right away. This is just, a something that needs to be approved before next year when we have the annual meeting.
Okay.
So there's no rush to this, no emergency.
Isn't Ben Ryblin a resident?
Yeah, I mean, we'll need somebody that
But-
can serve on that board. but-
So who are the city representatives total? I see Dennis West, Mario Macchio.
He's the one
Ben
that's the
Wright?
Kent
Oh, no.
resident that is now no longer going to be
He's the one that moved to Kent? Okay.
correct.
So he's off.
Right,
So that's what we were talking about, replacing him.
right.
Does Brian Huff need to be approved by
And then,
council?
right, because right now he's approved by, if you look under, he is Portage County Commissioner appointed, just as I am Portage County Commissioner appointed.
Well,
But
so
since
you-
Brian is a resident, he could serve as the resident.
Right, but he wouldn't need council approval if he's representing the county.
But I think
we
as it's
need-
written, we still need to
We
approve
need
that
him
for
to
our
be a
slot to be
resident
covered.
designee, though,
Because he's filling that
because
resident
he's filling
designee
that role.
slot.
We need him to fill that role.
Okay, but, all right, so we need a resolution authorizing Brian as one of the two residents, and we need someone else
Second
appointed
person.
as a
Correct.
resident.
Correct,
But it's the mayor who provides the appointment, we just provide the confirmation.
right.
Well, obviously, the mayor's not here, so I don't know, would it save time to move it forward? And then, do you think he has somebody by the time we vote on
We
this in May?
talked about it, but nothing firm, yeah,
Well,
so
what's your pleasure then? Would you like to move it forward or wait till next month?
It's up to you, Tammy. Do you
We
think?
can move it forward in hopes
Okay.
that we, find somebody, the mayor will be back tomorrow, we'll talk to him about that.
You okay with that?
Yes.
Amy, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just had a question with Dennis West being a City of Ravenna appointment. He doesn't live in the city, but he's a contracted employee. Does that make a difference?
Brian's an employee too.
Well,
So
yeah,
is
he lives in
Tammy.
the city. No, I'm saying he's a
No, no, we-
contracted employee. He's not a city employee, he's a contracted employee.
Well,
He's contracted, he's not an employee,
Right, but he's not a resident.
and he's not a resident.
no, I know, but we only need two on the board that are residents.
So that's why we need another person, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because it says Ravenna, appointed by City of Ravenna appointment, so I was just curious.
He's appointed as just the Economic Development Board.
Okay.
Because he's involved in the economic development.
All right. So then the next item I have is the approval of the Tax Incentive Review Council minutes. Those are also in your packet. This is some housekeeping that we do every year. Tam-
Yes, and when we had our meeting, all of the CRAs, all of the enterprise zone agreements moved forward. The only one that's kind of still lingering out there is the Menards project, which there's just no movement on that currently.
So, are there not expiration dates for some of these things?
It's all the way to 2039.
2039?
Think they'll do something by then?
Yes, that's the estimated expiration of the agreement if it's entered into, but they have so much time to enter into the agreement, and there's still a ramp-up period of when this can be entered into. Did Dennis put anything else on here? They still own the land, they still plan on doing the project. Dennis, when he looks at these, talks to these companies, and he does regularly, and they still have intentions on building the project, and I think it's still seen as being Menards, that it will be a good thing for us eventually if this does happen. So there's no other interest that I know of in that property, so. Any other
All right.
questions?
Good with moving that on? Yes, Amy? Okay. All right, the next item on the list, because I figure we had so much fun talking about data storage that we should possibly talk about self-storage, since we've left that off of our agenda for so long. We still have the moratorium in place for self-storage units. I've been reviewing self-storage in Parma, Macedonia, somewhere else, I don't even remember, to kind of see how, what they were doing. And I have been working on something. I will share it with all council after today, but just kind of outlining why we need it. So, we've had a discussion about just the overconcentration of self-storage facilities. It's not good land use. We're not getting great it's not generating any tax. So kind of outlining and looking at our comprehensive plan, what should a self-storage kind of thing look like? So as far as they can't be within like a certain distance from each other, so I would have to talk to Bob about that to see, like if we were to get a new self-storage unit place, how far apart should they be? I know that's a crazy question.
No, it's from an actual land use or
Yes.
available land. I don't know that it's even a relevant question.
Okay. Okay.
If you consider the vacant land, which should be in the
In the plan?
plan, I think more of it is the city willing to allow vacant developable land to be utilized as self-storage that doesn't help the community?
Right.
For the most part.
But do we want to, I mean, we really,
I don't want them.
I mean, they have a use and a function for like people moving in and out of communities, like storing different things. Like they serve a purpose, but
Yeah.
you can have
When's
too
enough
much
enough,
of
though?
something.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think the zoning issues should be, where should they be?
right,
What district?
Right.
Probably industrial would make the most sense. We don't want them in residential areas.
No.
Probably not using up valuable space in a commercial zone.
correct.
Other issues could be, studying the need for them. If we already have two, with a third, a capacity, I think those are important issues, but perhaps stating that any use as a self-storage facility would have to be a conditional use, therefore would have to be approved by the planning commission. So a lot of these details we could put in could be under review every time somebody wanted to do this.
I think the frustrating thing for these is that, like, even if you reach out to these self-storage places, they're managed by someone somewhere else, and they're not getting back. I mean, I tried reaching out to get a usage, so, we really don't know.
That's a good point.
Unless you show up during the day and hope that someone's there.
And it's really hoping at that point, because
Right.
there's enough technology where a lot of these
Right.
units, they are fully self-service, even where you would go to, like rent one at the very initial. Normally, you'd expect to run into someone in an office, talk to someone, what are the rates, those kind of things. It's a kiosk that drops out a digital key, like an RFID card or something.
Yep.
And pretty much it's fully automated, and like in terms of like economically, like job generating things, it's like a self-checkout at the grocery store. The only thing working there is you.
Well, and sometimes a lot of these, like if it were to go bankrupt or, decide to close up shop and something happens, what's going to happen if they don't sell it? Then this empty
happens?
parcel is going to sit there, and who's going to be responsible for cleaning it up and using it again or selling it? And usually a lot of these places like this end up being the city's responsibility to clean it up and to try to find other uses out of it too.
And I think when I was reading a lot of the other ordinances, to your point, in other cities is, like, they were saying it has to be less than 50% of the land, has to be the actual building itself. A lot of them limited it to one story. So a lot of the things that a lot of other cities have put in place would completely delete us having them at all.
Yeah, and there's, I forget which community, Strongsville, somebody out and out bans them. So I don't know whether that's
I mean, what's
a problem.
council's, what do we,
But going back to the study, though, I think we could make logical determinations based upon our population,
sure,
the number of existing facilities and their capacity, and the number around us. There's not just two in the city, there's some in the township and so forth. And I think, we could make some standards to suggest how many storage facilities would be appropriate in the city.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I just think that when we talk about different businesses, just kind of a meta look at this is that when we talk about economic development is not just any business that comes into town is automatically good. I think that we're getting into this habit. I see a lot of chatter in the city that anything that's a business, it's economic development. Well, business is one thing, economic development's another. So when I think of economic development, I think of things that benefit Ravenna residents, not the person who's gonna make money off the Ravenna residents. I mean, this is these self-storage places. I mean, Tyler, I mean, they can be pragmatic, and we already have some of those, but it's taking up space for something that truly could.
Yeah, like what's that opportunity cost? Like all these acres, that could be a whole bunch of different smaller businesses that might be meeting needs that our community doesn't have. Like if you talk to Dennis, economic developer, he has different reports from things, and he talks about how many businesses for both goods and services that aren't sold, they're just not available in our community. So every time we need those things, we take our money and we go to another place and spend it there. So the money leaves our community. So I think there's a lot of good things we could put other than people putting boxes and things in places. I mean, and there's other risks for even having these things too. For some things, it's like regarding like if there's a fire in them, sometimes people will try to live in them. And like there's other kind of issues even
Those
for
are the
like.
restrictions that you
Right.
need to be looking at.
Right.
Yeah,
And those are things, so, you know, a lot of the ordinances in other cities have, that, you know, they have to have the sprinkler system, the fire department's allowed to get in up to 3 times a year to take a look at
Inspect.
things. Those were in place. They also had things in place like building orientation, like the doors can't be facing the road, exterior materials, what they're built with, what kind of fencing has to be around it, what kind of lighting has to be around it, what kind of, like, outdoor storage, is it allowed? A lot of places don't allow outdoor storage anymore. I know the ones in the township we do, and we do have ours do here as well, but a lot of the newer ones don't, so.
And I think we need to be a little careful about not being, I don't know what the right word is, I want to say hypocritical, but I don't know if that qualifies. We do have ordinances, for example, that don't allow people to store their RVs and their
Right.
boats in their front, you know, in the driveway unless it's a certain setback. I mean, if that's the case, we do have to provide, and the city should recognize that there needs to be opportunities where they can store those things.
But if there's already, if there already
That's-
is opportunities.
Well,
for
that's what I'm
them.
saying. That's
Right,
why the
right.
study of capacity, I think, is important. We not neglect the need that, you know, there is a
Residents may have.
need. It doesn't fill a great economic development need for sure, but
Yeah.
there is a certain need for people to have these things.
And we do have a lot of lots
I
that
got
sometimes
it.
are
I'll
postage
get it, yeah,
stamps.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Come on up.
Several years ago, when we okayed, and Bob probably will remember this, the one on Freedom Street. And when it came to zoning or use or whatever, I can't remember which one it was, but at the meeting, they were told and they agreed that no cars would be out front stored. We can check the minutes on that, okay? And the problem comes down to here, Bob has enough to do with
Right,
enforcing stuff here. The thing to do is not to let them in. That's enough.
Yep.
They're not making any money for us. And then, who do you call? Those people, those are almost all owned
know.
by like 1 or 2 big companies. They're all buying up the small ones. So who do you call? So you don't need that headache. You should just ban them.
We shouldn't be afraid to just say no. I'm not. I think we have enough.
you're on this committee, what's your thoughts?
When does the current moratorium expire?
I think February next year, something like that. Didn't we just
It
renew it?
expired and we extended it,
Yeah, but we only extended it 6 months, I think.
yeah,
So we need to get something in place.
right.
Well, it's a third over.
Well, yeah, we've had a lot going on, so self-storage units were pushed to the side for a bit. I mean, certainly I can, Bob, go ahead.
Keep in mind, storage, you know, there's multiple ways for storage. It could be the pods, could be open air stores, could be actual buildings built for storage. So when you define storage, there's multiple definitions that could apply. And then we would also have to remove, I believe there's something in one of the codes that mentions storage of vehicles through businesses, like a repair shop, tractor implement store, stuff like that with outdoor storage. So that's something that, although it's not a for-profit storage, but
It's storage nonetheless.
Yeah, it's still a
Storage
functional
nonetheless.
storage, like an automotive shop that just
Okay.
has cars waiting outside. So.
correct.
Well, I will start working on something then for committee of the whole on that. Anything else on that?
And one, I will say, I'll use, there's a couple examples for, I call it open air storage, where there's a big vacant lot and they have asked if they could rent space for motorhomes and things to be stored. Very informal way. Person owns land, wants to utilize it somehow, make a couple bucks on it.
Yeah.
And I'd say the same thing, North Chestnut Street along Ray Ann. The owner of that property is also leasing to a trucking company. So how does that affect the storage ordinance? Is that,
Or are we just looking specifically at buildings? Like, I think
I
that's
would,
the.
no, I would,
Yeah,
my opinion is we don't want open air storage. I'm just saying we currently have a couple places that people are doing that.
I noticed in Streetsboro, Tractor Farm and whatever that is, they store vehicles for a car dealership. And then the Birdie Shack in the off-season stores some vehicles as well. So I've noticed that, which obviously those aren't in our city, but I noticed that that's more of a popular thing that's happening.
And maybe that is looked at differently because that's not, you know, I mean, those are new vehicles and something different.
Well, they have this,
Or North Chestnut Street, it's one trucking company
right,
for the most part that has 6, 8, 10 semis.
right.
That's a little different because it's not necessarily self-storage. It's not
Is it-
multiple people coming and going.
But is it storage if they're coming and going? That's, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is the definition of it? Like, how
Right.
many days does something sit between temporary use versus permanent storage? I'm sure there's more nuance, too.
All right.
Christina, as you look at guidelines that would be put in place, I believe that many of the guidelines would be such that it would completely eliminate them from being in the city, which could be okay. I do want to mention, though, that we also should think about closed building storage areas. My son always hated it when I used an example of him in the past. So, Ben, if you're listening, please forgive me. But where he lives, there's a completely closed storage facility. It's all inside. There's nothing outside. They drive in. The storage areas are inside the building. I don't know if I have an objection to something like that.
I mean, yeah, I've seen some older commercial properties
Hotels.
put to better
Columbus
use that way.
area.
Cuyahoga Falls has one along the Route 8. So I guess I'm saying I do have, if it's something like that, completely enclosed, I don't know if I'd be against that.
But again, we don't have those buildings for the most part.
Yeah,
And we have a building on North Chestnut Street that has 125,000 square feet of vacant space, but I'm going to expect that's going to stay commercial because of the commercial building sprinklered. They're going to get commercial rent from that. But again, I think it does come back to the definition. It's how we define what storage units are.
all right. All right, so my next item on my agenda is Main Street Ravenna. So we put this back in committee after our last meeting. I think there was just a lot more questions and a lot more conversation that needed to be had, so I'm glad that we're back here. I did want to clear up a couple of things based off of our conversation from last week. So we already have in the budget, the money for 60,000 is budgeted between the two organizations. So Main Street and the Chamber has already been allocated. So we're just looking at the additional 40,000. The other thing is it is a 0.027% of our budget. That is how much that the increase would add. So, right, does that clear me on that? 'Cause-
The increase is even less. It's only 0.11%.
Okay. So
total,
the 60,000 is .027, the 40,000 is .011. Okay. The other thing that I met with Tammy and the mayor last week to talk about, because the word has been thrown around so much, was the whole, we're in the deficit spending phrase. And I really wanted to clear that up, because I asked Tammy, when is the last time we actually overspent? We still had a cash balance, but we actually overspent, and that was 2015, 2016. So we are not, Tammy, go, you're the financial person.
Yeah, we are not overspending on the actual. We always watch and do not overspend the expenses to our revenues that we bring in. We have budgeted in a deficit. It's kind of a normal thing for cities to do. You have a cash balance that's carried over from year to year, and that's figured in there too. We have always certified to the county, and we don't show a deficit to the county. The county will bring back a certificate that says we do not exceed our appropriations. So we always have no negative cash balance. We are dipping into our cash, but we have in our general fund a 7.5 million carryover in our general fund. So we have to watch and we have to be careful. We've just, increased our salaries, as we've all talked about, with negotiations. So we have to start watching those balances, and we may have to watch a little closer, but the deficit is not something that is in our actual spending.
And the other thing that we need to be aware of too, and that we talked about, was those multi-year projects that we're doing that kind of looks like, again, in the budget that we're deficit spending, but it's not. It's just the fact that we're taking multiple years to complete certain things. The water tower is an example of that.
And I do want to point out, because it seemed to be that at our regular meeting a week ago, there was some concern about this deficit, like all of a sudden this is a problem. I think it's already been explained, this is the way we do budgeting.
Right.
And I think part of it is, because you've mentioned some of the things that contribute to that appearance of a deficit. One of the things is that we are in the first year of multiple year agreements, and that typically boosts up those expenditures in the first year. So I looked at 2021, or 23, I'm sorry, the last time. Now, this year, the concern was we're $3 million in the deficit. In 2023, we were $4 million, the same spreadsheet showed. And I don't remember anybody in council worried about funding, what really amounts to a rounding error in our budget for these organizations. I did prepare a few things that I wanted to see. You've already kind of hit them, but I didn't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
What am I missing?
Well, I'm not saying you're missing anything, but these are just some perspectives that I think we need to keep in mind for both organizations, because I think, these points apply to them equally. One is that there's a perception that we're giving them money. Like, okay, we're taking money from city coffers and we're just giving them away and we're never seeing that money again. I disagree. These are investments. Both these organizations contribute to the city in ways we can't really quantify necessarily monetarily. But think about all the events and initiatives that these two organizations have done, and without them, who would have done them? Not the city, that's for sure. So we're getting a great return on our investments with the money we're spending, getting more, I think, than we would if we had tried to spend this money ourselves. We listened to, these presentations, and everyone on council was so complimentary. I don't know why all of a sudden there seems to be a knee-jerk reaction that, we have to hold back when we seem to be enthusiastically in support of them. They're in our comprehensive plan. I think our clerk discovered they're mentioned, do you remember how many times?
14 times Main Street's mentioned and 18 times the Chamber's mentioned.
Yeah, so they're contributing to our plan for the future and how we want, our city to progress. In addition, both organizations participated in developing the plan. I see that as partnerships. Again, we're not just giving them money. They're part of what we do in the city, and I think investing in them is a good idea. The last thing I'll say is it's kind of ironic to me that in this budget cycle, we've approved 4 new policemen, 3 new firemen, 5 union contracts that stem from like 12% equity increases to 9%. Across the board, equity increases of 4% on non-union employees, plus a 3% annual. All those things contribute to about, what, $1.3 million?
Correct.
And again, you know, with little or no resistance and barely any discussion. But this becomes an issue. And I guess I just don't understand that. I would like to see council pass both these ordinances as they're written.
I would like to comment.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I was not the first person to mention deficit spending. In fact, I was the last person. Dr. Coffey has mentioned a deficit. The mayor discussed during his State of the City that we need to watch, that this year was different. But as soon as I say something, then all hell breaks loose. So I don't understand what it is about me saying it that is something that is kind of different. I'll have to take your word for it that typically cities budget for a deficit. I'm not familiar with that going on. It makes me nervous. If it's something that is projected at a smaller dollar amount, I can see that. But this is $3 million to me is a lot. And I do know, I understand what you're saying about these hires and about how there was a $4 million deficit in 2023, but how many new people were hired in 2023?
But those are accounted for.
That was because of the water tank project. Again, that was why that 2023 looked so bad.
But I'm just
And
saying.
to be clear, I'm not pointing
Yeah,
to
I'm
you
not,
or
but-
anybody. I'm just saying we couldn't get it
I
done.
just want people to be clear that the way that it looks on paper right now, it looks like we are projected for a $3 million deficit. So this is what is going, I just want people to know that, so they don't think that some uneducated person is up here taking a look at things and just kind of shooting off things that have no relevance or factual basis.
And
Nobody's
not
saying
at all
that.
are we saying that. So
It
keep in mind
sounds
that
like it.
I am not, I'm not at all, hold on, I am not great at budgets and math. I'm a social worker. That is why I scheduled an appointment to sit down with Tammy and have her explain it to me and go through it, because I was concerned as well. So I wanted to fact check and make sure that, you know, this is how this all works. So that's why I sat down with Tammy as well, because I was hearing that. So it is not pointing fingers at anyone. It's the mere fact of, you know, really making an informed choice as I'm moving this forward or attempting to move this forward. You know, I agree with Rob. I think both of these organizations are an integral part of our city, and we need them to thrive and continue to grow.
Well, and also, I'm sorry, but I cannot compare that, giving them the money versus what we brought on police and fire. You're comparing two different entities there. Police and fire were extremely needed. What our guys did is much more dangerous than those jobs, or, you know, you cannot compare the two. So, you know, yes, we had told them in the past, once our budget got better, that we would bring up to date more police and fire. In some of the cases that we're not getting looked to, and our police officers, the amount of calls in cases that they were going on. Of course, this body, I know I'm not going to think twice about helping our, you know, safety forces and our residents and crime rate and, you know, safety for, you know, our men and women out there. But to try to, you know, make us feel guilty because we questioned the amount and the accountability possibly when one is much higher and it's a 2-year contract, or a 2-year commitment rather. And, you know, there's a lot to think about. We have a safety levy coming up. I mean, yes, you know, we seemed very interested, but then, you know, you can talk and think of these things after, and you can always change your mind, so you have that right to vote. So I don't appreciate feeling guilty for how I voted. And I did try to make some changes and recognize the fact that they weren't not going to get any money at that time, and that's not what I wanted. But again, perception for the community and the people that were asking for money right now for a new safety building, and you go from, a 30,000 to 60,000, there's just a lot of questions in my mind with that, and I worry about the timing. And my priority is a safety levy right now and our safety forces. And I still feel that things can be increased, but I'm still uncomfortable with that amount of money personally. So that's where I'm at.
I mean, nobody's accusing anybody or making people feel guilty.
It sounds like it.
My point is this. When we talk about a 1.3 million addition to our permanent budget, which will expand every year compared to a $40,000
Yes.
amount, and there's zero consideration. I know, believe me, I know policemen, firemen, all that stuff is different than what Main Street and the Chamber do. But that's not the point. It's the process that we could just summarily increase that amount of money and then be so focused on such a small amount of money that I think that there's something missing from the process, that all of a sudden now we have to be so concerned about a small amount of increase compared to a large amount where there was virtually no debate.
Well, and I want to say that I wanted to have the opportunity to go back and talk to the Chamber and to go back and talk to Main Street to see what concessions, if any, they would be willing to make or adjust, so we could have a good conversation about this instead of making the decision by just making addendums to what was being presented. So I have talked with both organizations, and they would both be okay with a year if that's something that council would be willing to do.
That would make me feel more comfortable because there's, as everybody's probably heard, they're talking about putting this repealing the property tax on the ballot in November. And so if that passes, this is going to have a profound impact on our budget. And I don't want to feel like I'm breaking commitments to organizations either. Because I myself, across the board, not even just with those organizations, about thinking about that looming in the distance in November.
Just for clarification, Committee of the Whole did pass forward the ordinances as they exist today.
Correct.
They will require, despite whatever discussions you had,
Right.
would require an amendment.
Right. But again, I wanted to have a chance for us to have a good conversation about it instead of going back and forth and voting on it.
I'm glad you did.
Because that wasn't making any sense for anyone. And the last thing I want is for us to make a change that wasn't going to benefit either organization, and then it wasn't going to be helpful at all. If both organizations are here tonight, I know that, and I do want feedback from everyone, by the way, just because I know I shared Ryan's not going to be here for Committee of the Whole. I'm not sure if Main Street will be here for Committee of the Whole, so if anybody has.
It's not going to be discussed at the Committee of the Whole. We've already passed it through Committee of the Whole. It's already on its second reading.
Even if we change the addendum, or even if we change it.
Well, it's already an ordinance, you have to change the ordinance.
Okay.
What we could do, and again, I don't know how you gauge without maybe some sort of straw vote, we could put this on the special that we're planning for, consideration of the data center moratorium on the 20th after the Committee of the Whole. I suppose we could put it on the Committee of the Whole for discussion, but it was the process has already been completed in terms of preparing an ordinance.
Thank you for
I think we still
clarification.
need to amend it.
So does anyone, Paul, Tim, Tyler, do you guys have anything to add?
Yes, I do. I think, as you could tell last week, I was in favor of both ordinances for 2 years at the amounts that we were talking about. However, since we've talked some about some concerns that people have, long-term budgeting questions, I would be okay for 1 year at both of the amounts that have been mentioned. And if that can bring us to a majority vote on that, I think that would be a good solution at this point in our discussion.
One of the things that I noticed when I look at these budgets year after year, when they come to the city for an ask, is that the only line item for income that increases is our contribution. I mean, why are they not raising more money themselves? I would love to see that. The only way they're going to be successful long-term is if they can do that. That's one of my main concerns.
And I'll say this again, I know I said this last week, that I have had detailed conversations with both organizations about also that transparency and reporting to council on what's going on and what's happening. So they both have agreed to come, we're gonna have liaisons on both the chamber as well as Main Street to be able to bring feedback, just like we're reporting back for the cemetery board or Parks and Rec, to be able to share things that are happening. Quarterly and I asked them, I don't want the director or the CEO or I want members of your boards to come and share with us what's going on, what's happening, what events are happening, what's working and what's not working, how our money is being spent, how fundraisers are going, so that we can, really see the benefit of both agencies or both organizations. So.
Yeah, and I think that the organizations, this is kind of like priming a pump, because we haven't really done this type of economic work in terms of help getting funds to these organizations to help do a lot of that work. And Rob, to your point, a lot of this is their outputs aren't always quantifiable in terms of exact dollars spent for that specificity, because it's kind of hard to evaluate how much happiness was brought to Ravenna residents at downtown events. How do you measure engagement? I mean, even Benjamin, I forget what the guy's name was, famous philosopher, but he had utils of happiness. Was how do you quantify those things? They all have value. I mean, I've heard my entire life, I've heard complaints from my parents and lots of people, there's very few places to sit down to eat. I hear all the same things, but by funding these organizations, we have an opportunity to move the needle in those areas where that's kind of the cultural push. How do we get different, diverse businesses, people? How do we get folks into town? I'm with Dr. Calfee on this one. I'd like to see the organization supported for longer periods so they can focus on the mission rather than trying to figure out how they're going to continue funding an operation. But I do think, Matt, to your point, that should be part of that scale. So when you're building up these things and you have you're having events downtown and things like that, make sure that you're building in some of that structure and frame to say, we want to make sure that over the course of the year we bring in X number of dollars just to support the main operations. For that regard, for how do you keep these things ongoing, get more efficient in how you run your events, and it's a lot easier to make them happen, and you also get the, not needing to market as much, because the public knows that Balloon Affair happens every year, where can vary sometimes, but that's kind of the point, though. But if it does help get this over the finish line, I'm okay with the 1 year, but I'd like to see the full level of these ordinances committed to.
Anybody else?
Well, the fundraising was mentioned, and to my knowledge, it hasn't been requested like this before. How much they bring in or how often exactly, I know there's different events, but exactly which ones bring in what, things of that nature. And since that wasn't mentioned in the past, as far as I know, then I know that probably wouldn't be too difficult to get those figures in the future. And then to find out more, thinking more of an accounting standard on a balance sheet, more so, of how that's going and the solidity of it, those types of things.
I do think that some of the data that we're looking for is difficult to get. So how many people walk through Art on Main unless they buy tickets? We don't actually know that. How many people are going to walk through First Fridays? How many people are at Midnight Madness? We don't actually know that. But we could say how many businesses participated, how many vendors participated, those kind of things. It is hard to get when you're in an open setting and you're not charging an admission or not charging something to count people.
And I think they've done that to some extent when they
Right.
gave their
Yes.
presentation. I
Right.
think they, without necessarily quantifying it to the dollar amount, express that. I know in the past, we've seen presentations where grants were provided that, I mean, things like that can be quantified to a certain extent. Other things that I think, again, are the intangible part is how many people, look at Main Street, they're all volunteers at this point. Nobody on Main Street right now is getting paid. How do you quantify the man hours? And I think they still, I remember filling out a form. So we could ask for that information. How many people are volunteering? What are the cumulative number of hours that, people have decided to volunteer their time to keep these organizations running?
And even in-kind donations too, because folks could donate, either labor, time, or even materials to
Yeah.
these groups too.
All those things, I think, are accountable and could be presented as ways to assess them in more detail than we have asked to assess them in the past. And I'm sure both organizations are willing to do that.
I don't disagree. I do think that it's looked at more as not so much as paying a bill, but as an investment for me. And I think I was pretty consistent with my 2-year thing, making me uncomfortable with that amount of time. And not to say, and I am sorry I missed Main Street Ravenna's presentation. That was, I believe I was in the hospital for that one, but I missed that one. I mean, I was here for the Chamber of Commerce, and that I can more confidently say only because I was here to listen to what they presented. But I mean, the things that the Chamber of Commerce is doing is not only within their scope of their mission, but I feel like they're even expanding it and bringing what I would call true economic development to the city of Ravenna. It's just, again, for me, it was, and I even tried to make an amendment last week about the 1 year, so I think I've been fairly consistent on that.
And I appreciate that. Like I said, I wanted to go back to both organizations and talk to them and see what they thought of the 1 year thing before, to make sure I wasn't missing anything, to get feedback, and I was able to do that, so. I know we did talk about kind of both. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Can I ask a question? Because just simply, I don't know, maybe somebody can answer, either Mr. Barber or, but do your organizations, do they work together? Because I kind of feel like you guys do some complementary things. Do you work together? I don't mean to put you on the spot like that.
I'm okay with being on the spot. I think in the past, there was a little bit more of conflict feel to it, but I think the way we're working with it now, it's much better. Yeah, matter of fact, we're meeting once a month for our coffee and, sort of a joint discussions with Matt and Ryan and
Is that at the horseshoe down there,
Kathy.
the things?
No, it's just the four of us.
No, I said folks to go.
Yeah, yeah. But that's just for us to keep everybody apprised and see what we can do together. So we understand how that has looked, because there's always been, it's funny because all main streets and chambers have a little bit of conflict. It happens in all the cities. If you look at Kent, you can look wherever they are. So we just have to work through that, but that's being worked on. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there was even like at the last coffee, whatever we had, our
Yes.
liaison meeting, there was discussion too, even to say, okay, there's a couple different things that aren't real big, like, because not to get like all the money's all convoluted and everything like that, but for actual fundraising, but like such as the Halloween walk, there's really no funds that are raised for that. So that would be a great opportunity to pair together, to collaborate, and to start doing that type of stuff, as well as, other avenues that we've discussed too. So.
You can also take a look on some of the reports that Harrison gave before, and we give again. They do on that summer report, put in all our volunteer hours. And they also have a Heritage Ohio as a cost figure, on what those volunteer hours are worth. So that's on some of the summary sheets that have been handed out before. We understand what you're saying, Mr. Harper, but the challenge for us, like many other nonprofits, this last year especially, post-COVID and this last year, things are drying up. and talk to all the businesses. And that's why we came in with a bigger ask.
Hey, just as a city, we're always trying to increase revenue, look for new revenue streams. It's what we got to do to survive.
Right.
So you guys may be doing it, it's difficult, I get it. We got to figure out a way to do it better.
Happy to have you come to some of the meetings and chat with us. Because we are interested in moving that forward. I mean, we're not sitting there with our, saying we're not doing anything new. That's why we brought up Fourth Fridays, this year. We want to get away from those constant big events, where we work a lot of hours and put a lot of effort in, and we don't get much return on that dollar. So what we wanted to do was something, these smaller mini events, where we get people downtown, and we can see that coming in. And as we get them coming in downtown, then it starts to build momentum. So we had to rethink the way we're gonna operate. Just all worrying about, I gotta get money to pay Harrison, I gotta get money to pay that executive director. Instead, what do we do to fix the city up a little bit more? How can we spend time working on grants? How can we spend time working on facade repairs? How can we spend time on getting people downtown to foot traffic? And we both go through that same thing.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I can honestly say, like, last year, there were some events that we did not end up doing due to a board decision. But as far as that was concerned, that was definitely a hit for us financially. However, going forward, I'm constantly thinking, like, I know Bill's saying, how can we pay Harrison? I'm thinking, how can I pay myself? So it basically is running my own business and has been for the past 10 and a half years. And so I'm constantly thinking of, like, okay, what can we do here? What type of event can we do here? And proud enough to say, as of this point, due to the murder mystery dinner, now again, gross revenue versus, the bottom line is much different. But I can proudly say that right now, as far as our events is concerned, we've doubled from where we were last year as far as revenue that has come in. So we're on that trajectory to be able to, by far, see that increase that you were speaking of. And we were hopeful of it last year, but again, due to other situations, there were some decisions that had to be made. So we are definitely continuously adding new different things. I would, in all honesty, I would like to, which I mentioned this before, is sort of cut down on some of those smaller events, because it's literally like every month and a half I'm having like a big, it's go, 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 go. And so I would like to have like some larger fundraising specific events so that we can, breathe a little bit. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And I'll just comment from what they said pertaining to what was suggested about the Halloween event in October, that at least that's drawing people in. And hopefully it grows more and more as time goes on.
I love that. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for being here and being patient as we work this out. Again, I like having nice, productive conversation about it to see where we go next.
Well, thank you all for
yeah.
your
Yeah.
thoughts and comments.
Thank you.
We
Yeah.
appreciate that. And we know that not everybody sees everything the same way, and we appreciate the comments that help us look at things a different way and understand where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Keeping an open mind helps.
All right, thank you. We're good?
Just procedurally.
Go ahead.
If you would like, and this would be a committee decision, we could put these two ordinances for a second reading on the special meeting on the 20th, or we could wait to the meeting in May, whatever your
I
preference
think these
is.
guys have been waiting long enough. If we could put it on the special on the 20th, I would
Okay.
appreciate that.
Then we'll plan on doing that.
Yeah.
Cliff in the back has a question.
I heard you say 1 year and 2 year, but you just didn't mention that. So what are you doing? 1 year or 2 years?
Well,
Well, I mean,
it's going to go, it's still on because
I
it's
know
the
it's on
second.
for 2, so you'd have to amend that back
Correct.
to 1. Is that what the plan is?
I plan
or-
on making a motion to change it to 1 year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. that wasn't-
per
wasn't
feedback
mentioned
from
there, so
council.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Then I will adjourn my meeting at 7:09 PM. You have lots of time now.
Okay, it is 7:09, and I will convene the Finance Committee meeting. We have one item on the agenda. It's the cannabis tax revenue. I did try to give you guys some homework to be thinking about what we could possibly be using this revenue. And to Mr. Harper's point about raising money and having higher revenues, I mean, this is sort of like what more could you ask for than $32,000 or more a month in revenue? So linking our previous discussion, what do people feel about perhaps carving out some of the cannabis tax revenue for a line item? We can call it economic development. I think that's where the Main Street and Chamber funding comes from. And we can carve out some of that money annually to pay for Main Street and Chamber. And at this point, you know, there's no ordinance on the table, but it would be dependent upon how that vote turns out for the two organizations on the 20th.
I did have some feedback. I know that before when we discussed doing this, we talked about percentage versus dollar amount. I would be more favorable to percentage because even though we are getting within a certain limit, an amount of month, at a certain amount every month, that's not guaranteed. And so I would hate to like come up with a dollar amount, like say we're going to do 10,000 for something, but then perhaps 1 month we don't get it or that's all we get. So I think that a percentage when we talk about what we want to direct it towards is more prudent.
Okay. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that in thinking about this revenue, we know we're going to get it. We don't know how much we're going to get. We don't know how fast we're going to accumulate it. And it is an opportunity for us to designate this money to go to something that we really want as a council to do. However, I believe that what we should do right now is just let the money accumulate and come into the council and come into our account. And at the same time, we can be thinking about things that we want to do with it. But I don't know if we want to treat it as a kind of a little account there that we're going to pull things out of whenever something comes up that we want to do. So that's my thought on it right now. I think we need to have the discussions about where that money is going to go. But I think let's let it accumulate for a little while right now. We have a lot of things going on as council and in the city right now at this time. Just my thoughts.
I think, because everyone got the notice from our auditor of state about how this, and it's pretty vague about how this money can be used.
What are you speaking of that we got?
It's this thing.
It's a memo
the one that we
from
just got
Keith
tonight.
Faber.
Yeah.
No, we got this last
I
week.
sent it out to you, yeah.
It's, the subject just says cannabis revenue, and it's got some background, and then it has some directives on how the money, from an accounting perspective, needs to be handled. Yeah, I think you have it in front of you. And it pretty much says there's no restrictions on the use of cannabis money. So we can do what we want, and maybe yours is a more prudent planning approach. But I do think that there is some concern that we don't just leave it in the general fund.
No, I don't.
I think there's some concern about that.
Yes.
So I don't know if there could be another, and the memo points out, you know, logistically or mechanically how those funds can be received and then how they can be parsed out. So maybe if nothing else, we could create a special line, I'm not exactly sure where, outside the general fund, where we can put the money we collect.
I thought that's what we had done.
No, I don't think we passed the resolution to do that.
It's a separate account line, but it is still within the general fund.
Yeah.
And just to say, if you did designate a percentage or dollar amount for the economic development, the donations to the chamber or Main Street, those are paid out of the general fund as well. So that kind of,
They're not
we
in-
can-
they're not in
We can
economic-
restrict the purpose, so we were doing that, but we're not going to be moving it out of the general fund. It would still
Okay.
be the general fund.
Maybe we could do this, and I'll engage some of the public comments about this in a second. And I don't know if anybody else had done any of their homework to come up with another idea. That's just one on the table, and maybe we need to be a little bit more careful. Maybe if the finance director could give us a little guidance about creating a line item outside the general fund, how that would look, just to receive the money for now. And then maybe during the next year's budget cycle, by then, we could have a plan on how we might want to parse it out percentage-wise or whatever for various things. Does that sound like something people would be on board for? So in the meantime, you still have your homework. You could figure out how you want to spend this money, but we don't have to make any, decisions just yet.
Rob, I can't believe I'm saying this to you, but I have a procedural question. You're the king of those things, but, so if we do this and we can't come up with a purpose yet, but we still want to have it go into its own restricted line item, then does this, by the guidance that we're getting, can we do that and just call it like or do we have to identify a purpose?
You could do an ordinance for a specific purpose, and that way it was designated, and I would create another line that would say, that was the specific purpose of the revenue coming in.
But can we do it temporarily without identifying a specific purpose?
I mean, according to the guidance, no, if it's going to be a
Yeah,
specific
that's
purpose.
what I mean. We can't set it aside without identifying a
Yeah.
purpose.
Well, again, what I was suggesting is we get some time for the finance director to figure out the
Right.
specific accounting process for
Right.
just taking the money as it comes in and putting it in a certain place outside.
What about
the
if you
general
called it community reinvestment?
Or a strategic investment fund or something like that. If we could create a purpose that has multiple
Yeah,
possible
if-
uses.
If we were keeping it in the general fund and just specifying a specific purpose, it just needs a resolution to do something like that. But if we're doing a special fund, I'll get auditor of state guidance on.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I was
Sometimes they
going to
have to just-
suggest.
We may have to do an ordinance and then send it to them for them to approve before we can actually create that special fund.
I personally would like to be able to tell taxpayers what we're doing with this because there might be people out in the community, and I'm sure there are, that weren't entirely enthused about a dispensary going into our community. And it did involve a house being taken down and a massive parking lot being put in a residential. So it would make me happier as a representative to be able to clearly identify the trade-off that, we're able to do this, this, and this with that money for having something like that in our community. That's just my thoughts on it. I know that we have a levy for streets and sidewalks, but I think that we could definitely use more money towards that. And then putting money away for capital projects like what we have with our safety center. And although I hope that issue passes, even if it does, this building's never going to have an end for needs for buildings and repairs and things like that. And I think it would be nice to have a dedicated purpose, so when people come to us and say, what have you done? You're asking for my tax dollars, or you want me to vote yes on this. What have you done to show your due diligence? We can say with fidelity, we have been strategically putting this money aside, and we're going to be able to pull from that fund.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to get from council is what are the ideas that we want to use this for?
Okay, I've had this idea for a little while. One of my ideas, I'm glad that Mr. Finney is here, is that putting some of that money toward a lot of these water projects. I know some have been put off because of the amount of finances and the cost. I was thinking if some of this could be put toward that, then it wouldn't take as long to get some of these projects done because of the escalating costs as they keep going up down the road.
Okay, see, this is what I was trying to get, is
Yeah.
ideas
Like
from
what are the
people. and-
projects,
Yeah. And I didn't expect to have any kind of ordinance prepared or anything like that. But, so I'm not so I'm kind of getting mixed vibes here about whether we should just put all the money in one place and continue the discussion. Is that what we can do, at least for now?
But I believe it shouldn't keep piling up for months and months. Only my terms for a transparency window toward the residents, because the residents will want to know what's happening. If this gets stockpiled for several months, then there might be some type of questions from residents.
We also have to remember the investment with Sunbow as well. You know, some of that money, you know, could go to Parks CI to continue the plan that they have with that as well, because there's, you know, a parking lot that is needed. I mean, there's a lot of things to get that to the point, to the vision of where that is supposed to be headed. So that's another opportunity as well.
I think for me, we have a big ask coming up in asking our residents for an income tax levy, and to be able to put some of this money towards the safety center would be huge, because we are able to say, hey, we know we asked, we're trying to help as well, and really trying to come in on this end. I mean, it's so desperately needed. And so you know, this is a lot of money that could help build a piece.
That's why I think with Carmen's idea with the percentages, on once we get amounts, you know, total, by looking at what percentage of that pie that we want to allocate to the different projects that are coming up.
And Amy, I know you're working on an initiative to make this a more senior-friendly city. I mean, and I'm sure that that could be another slice of the pie, that we designate some of this meeting or this money to go towards those things that are going to make the city more accessible. Not even just thinking about seniors, but also like, you know, making
ADA
it more
compliable.
ADA accessible and friendly. So when we do have these great, wonderful events downtown, that more people are able to come and enjoy them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, before we go on, I noticed there was some people who wanted to make some comments. Feel free to come up and give your name if you like.
My name is Cynthia Miller. $400,000 is a considerable chunk of money. I think if you want the residents of Ravenna to take it seriously, to pass an income tax increase, that you're going to use that money properly. Consider the young men that were standing here a couple of weeks ago that were honored for saving a life. This council has already approved buying a fire truck for the fire department. I believe you already have a specific account for that. Put that $400,000 into that account, and you're showing the residents that you're serious about supporting city services. Main Street Ravenna, I'm not crazy about. The Chamber of Commerce, I'm 1,000% behind. But breaking up that money into smaller pieces helps no one. They might be, even if they're worthwhile projects, saving a life is priceless. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a brother once that when he got money in his pocket, it was gone the next day. I kind of agree with Dr. Calfee here that we should let it build up until we decide what we want. And if you want some ideas, you're going to start throwing out the idea of a city manager here. We might need that money for that city manager to get somebody here that is qualified a little bit. Dr. Calfee and I have had a little back and forth about what it costs to have one. So it would be nice to have that money available for that. The other thing that's direly needed in this town, and if you're going to talk about economic development and businesses and everything, you need a meter maid reader, a meter reader, okay? You need to do something about the parking.
That pays for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know we had one.
There were two.
But we don't have one now.
I know. I think it's a great
And
idea.
We could get that going, and if you don't need that and it starts supporting itself, then pull it back and use it for something else. But I don't think that it should be put somewhere to get rid of it. Other than I agree with what you say about showing the public about police and fire. I see that. But there's plenty of places to put this money, okay? But let's not be hasty here.
I appreciate that. Let me suggest this as a way to go forward. Obviously, there's nothing to move tonight for any kind of council action. But please be continuing this. What I will prepare for next month is maybe a spreadsheet that kind of describes how much money we're anticipating to get each year, and then entertain various ideas to put into the spreadsheet with some cost estimates, and then see how that takes us forward. In the meantime, if the finance director could look into the accounting principles that were explained in that and how it matches up with what we've been discussing.
Absolutely.
I think it might also be worth exploring, Tammy, from your side, any current ongoing debt and what that cost is for us. Yeah, like for like a basic consumer, that would be like, what is the interest that you pay for a car loan? Like, is there some wisdom perhaps in finding existing debt that we could clear that opens up more financial bandwidth for the tax revenue that we already get in?
Right.
So I think that we could kind of go, what are some of those worst ones for the higher price debt if we have that? So, just an approach.
Okay, thank you all for your input on that, and thanks from those in the public who contributed. There's nothing else on my agenda but a management update, and I don't believe we need to discuss one, so I will adjourn the Finance Committee meeting at 7:25.
Okay, we are convening the Planning Committee meeting at 7:25. We're actually ahead of schedule. I know. So the first thing I want to point out is this is just an error on the agenda because the data centers is on here, but this was when this was created before we called for the special meeting that we had Friday at 3 p.m. I don't know how many people out there in the audience. I see a lot of familiar people that were here for that meeting on Friday. I mean, it was an incredible meeting, and a lot of people came together and shared a lot of knowledge and passion and research. And I can confidently say that nationwide now, Ravenna is being talked about as a community that is getting out in front of this and being proactive. So it's nice to be seeing those types of comments made about our community. But this will be on data centers, will be on for Committee of the Whole on the 20th with a special meeting to vote on it later that meeting.
Carmen.
So I just want to make that clear.
Do you think if anybody wasn't able to come to that meeting, is there anybody that would want to speak on this behalf since they're here tonight and there was a little confusion on whether or not, I mean, is that something you want to allow or not? It's
I
up to
will
you.
always and forever allow any public comment on anything on my agenda, so.
I don't know if
yes.
there's anybody out there or
Is
not,
there
but I
somebody
just saw
that would
some
like
new
to speak
faces.
On the data centers? There will be plenty of opportunity as well next Monday, and I'm sure there'll be a crowd of people because a lot of people reached out today asking when they can come and share their thoughts on data centers for, well, hopefully not for Ravenna, but that's on there for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I address one thing with regard to the water usage of data centers?
Mm-hmm.
The proposal that we heard a week ago, Mayor, Service Director, Economic Development, I heard, I told the owner of the building specifically, we would never commit a certain amount of water for cooling. Our rules and regulations of our water in general state, we will never guarantee 100% of the time you're going to get X amount of water. We have water breaks, we have shutdowns, that sort of thing. So the discussion was, if you're going to use water to cool these machines, or if that's the intent, you better have a backup plan. And it was told to us that they would use a different method of cooling. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Big fans?
What was the
No, they're talking
method
about
that
a
they
closed
shared?
loop system,
Yeah,
I'm
they have
sure.
different things. And again, I'm not a proponent of it, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying, we protect our water system. You guys probably don't even realize how well we protect it. We would never commit to those things. And
I'm glad to hear
most
that.
folks don't realize is if there's a fire and we have a fire truck or 3 connected to our water system, our towers drop almost immediately.
Yes.
They can pull
So-
that much water, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It just, so everyone understands, the purpose of what we're doing as a council action is a moratorium. So what you're talking about is exactly what we need to be considering. And we need to formalize that in our code so that it's, you know, anybody who thinks they're going to bring a data center to Ravenna needs to know, these are the strict restrictions we're going to put in place if we allow them at all. So I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves in talking about, you know, those things before we've even passed the moratorium. But assuming the moratorium goes in place, I think that's exactly what we need to do, start studying those particular issues.
And the law director will have legislation at next Monday's meeting for council to consider on that matter. So again, I mean, as much as I hate the reason that that issue came about, I could not have been more proud to serve on this council and live in this city on Friday. And the more people that send me articles about how this has now become national news, that one, it's over 1,000 views now, that meeting has gotten on YouTube.
Well, it's a
And that's like
million
RSU
on
fans
TikTok.
watching.
Yeah, it's over 1 million. And it's, I mean, so you can't plan for those types of things. And I just think that it's great that we have the reputation, at least nationally, that we are proactive, which is the better place to be, always better to be proactive than reactive. All right, so moving on to city manager, I actually, and Chelsea has put up with so much for me with my lack of technical skills. But I do have a Google Slides presentation, which she has managed to find a way to put up on these screens for people.
Before you can, I think there was a hand up.
Yeah, there were a
I don't know, it
couple.
might have
Oh,
been
I'm sorry.
related.
Couple comments.
I didn't see your hand, Cliff.
Could have got it at the end, no problem. Can you explain to me and other people that are watching why we want moratorium other than no? Is there a plus for either one of those?
Yes.
Okay, and then if you would explain that, because I've had a lot of people ask me, just say no. Okay, so,
The moratorium is easier, it's legally, easier to be legally defensible than a ban. That's the reason.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but a moratorium would give us time to develop the proper legislation, proper restrictions, proper things in our ordinances, so that if we do decide to ban them, it's incorrect, it's listed correctly.
Right. And the one that Kent is crafting, their moratorium, because that's what Kent passed, it's not a ban, but it's basically setting parameters that, sort of like the storage space issue, would make it impossible for one to come here anyway. But it's just about the legal defensiveness of a moratorium versus a ban. I hope that answers your question. Okay. So city manager, moving on this. All right, so I've organized it because, I mean, I tried to condense this down into 6 sort of things to explain. How is a city manager different from a mayor? The data on council manager forms of government in Ohio. There are quite a bit of communities that have them and some that even surround us. The pros and cons of a city manager. How much would a city manager cost? And what needs to change in our charter and a timeline. So if we could move forward on this one. All right. So how does this differ from a traditional mayor? This is a professional administrator, trained administrator who is hired by council based on expertise. So opposed to, I mean, anybody can run for mayor, but a city manager has to have a specific set of qualifications. Those qualifications are determined by city council, but by and large, they include some type of degree or even an advanced degree in public administration with a significant amount of municipal experience. They're appointed, not elected. So again, this is, a city manager would answer to council. So selection is based on experience and qualifications rather than political campaigning. So it's like a CEO or a superintendent of a school. This is how they would manage the business. So all the duties that are in the charter for our mayor, Those duties do not change. It's just a title of, it would change to city manager. And again, the big difference would be that a city manager is somebody who is appointed by the city council. So I do have a link there on city manager resources. Can you click on that from here or no?
Go back.
Sorry.
I don't know if it's a hyperlink. It's not.
Okay, so I can make this available. I can put this link out there so it's hyperlinked so other people can go to it. But it's the International Council Manager Association. If you go to their website, they have so much information there. It has all kinds of suggestions for how you would go about setting this up in your city. Even if you don't have a city manager and you just have a form of government like we have, Tyler, you would really love this. There's a whole section just on data and research about different things that we could be doing. Actually, I probably spent 3 hours at my computer last night going down that rabbit hole. But it has a lot of information there on how this is done in Ohio and other places, and peer-reviewed research as to how beneficial that they are. And lots of things cities do, again, all peer-reviewed research, and it's at no cost. So it was a lucky find there. And this is when I was trying to find out which cities in Ohio had city managers. It was looking at that database from ICMA to see which ones were aligned from that resource. So if we could move to the next one. All right. So the regional breakdown in Northeast Ohio, the ones that were on that ICMA database were Kent, Hudson, Mentor, Chardon, Brunswick, and Steubenville. The Central Ohio locations, you could see them all up there, but there's over 100 in Ohio that have a council manager form of government. So this isn't exactly something that is rare, and obviously Kent and Hudson are fairly close to us. And I do have in another slide a population breakdown to kind of compare, because when we talk about the cost of city manager, it correlates, the amount of money they make correlates to the population in a lot of the instances. Obviously, the bigger city, the more work it is, the more money they get paid. And we'll get into all of that later, but they're in all regions of Ohio. So this is not something that's even specific to this area. It's a form of government that you see in a lot of different places. Want to go to the next one? All right, so the pros and cons, it's professional experience management, just like when school districts hire a superintendent, right, Dr. Calfee? You're looking at resumes and hiring the best qualified person. So efficient and consistent operations. Again, these people are professionally trained how to manage these multi-departments, and they start like that on day one. So they come in with that ability, so there's no lapse in consistency. Reduce political influence on hiring. You know, this, I don't have to tell anybody here that, or in any city, that with elections comes consequences, right, sometimes. Long-term planning and stability. So city managers like Kent, I think Kent might have the longest serving city manager. That's what the newspaper article said, and if it's in the newspaper, it must be true. But they have the longest running city manager, so over 2 decades of consistent leadership. And that is important. And, you know, for a time when Dr. Calfee came to Streetsboro City Schools, my twins were there they were there 13 years, kindergarten through 12th grade. And in that time, we had 6 superintendents. And I can't tell you what that kind of change of leadership can do to morale and the overall functioning of an organization. Because potentially in Ravenna, every 4 years, we could have a different mayor. And every 4 years, then everything's going to change over, the vision, and sometimes that can really have an impact on morale. So it provides that consistency. So some of the challenges, less direct voter control over leadership. So i.e., people will not be effectively electing the leader. They're electing the people to hire that person. So a potential disconnect from the community, the city manager does not have to live in the city, although I looked at some city charters, some did have a residency requirement, or at least that the city manager had to live within a certain radius of the community. And again, that's up to the communities that want to do this, how they want to set that up. So the salary cost for a high-level administrator, it is more than the mayor. I think the mayor here makes $87,000, and that's including the public safety director position combined into it, if I'm right on that. So, I mean, it is going to be more than that. And again, we do have some upcoming, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen this November with that property tax thing, and I'm not going to lie, that does concern me, but it will cost more money. But hopefully the investment is in the efficiency that type of position brings and the cost savings that you would see with that. So if we could go to the next one. All right, so this is the Ohio averages. This is before I got the sheet that Heather sent on the, she was able to pull city manager salaries from a lot of different places. Is it in here, or is it just in my email?
It's in an email.
It's just in my email. Okay, so Dr. Calfee has it there. So it's pretty much the 113,000 to 175 is the average range for Ohio. So I do have the populations in the city for Northeast Ohio versus, so you could see how that breaks down. And some other local examples. So you could see that the salary versus population highlights the market rate for professional city manager. And again, this is hyperlinked and we can't see it. I don't think it'll work if you click on it, I'm not sure. But this has to do with Steubenville, who underwent this transition in 2016. And if you go to that case study site, which I found this on Substack, but it was really comprehensive how they went about it. It has an example of how their charter amendment is set up and the kinds of qualifications they were looking for and how that whole evolution happened. And so it's a really great study that's involved with that. So they do cost, I mean, that's the big thing. And I know looking at that figure, it looks like sticker shock, so.
Carmen, I would just mention, as you said, the more recent numbers that came
Yeah.
in from Heather, Kent's, their most recent number is 203,000.
I'm going to say that that is probably including benefits because that number that I got from Kent was from a Portager article that was not that long ago. It was like a few months ago. So maybe that number includes the benefit package.
I guess we can verify the numbers at another time.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I think that might just be outdated information.
Okay.
Because I think there was a fairly big increase recently.
But you look at the
Okay.
population Kent has, and there's quite a bit.
Yeah, Kent, so for people who don't know, that Ravenna has, according to the Ohio Census data, we have about 11,300, but it has been declining. The population in Ravenna has been declining since, the past 30 years. And we know this, right? Because we live in this community and we have schools that are closing because the enrollment's just not there. And the fact that people aren't having 5 and 6 kids per family anymore, I would never describe the declining population in Ravenna as people just don't want to live here. I really think, and the schools really face this especially. And this isn't just something even in Ravenna that's happening. So where I grew up in Mentor, there were 6 elementary schools. Now there's 3 for a town, and I think I have the population there, 47,000. So, declining population is one thing to think of. Okay, so there's that case study. And then if you want to move, there we go. Okay, so I wish it was so simple as if we did this, that we could just make one thing in our charter, but no, there are other things in our charter that would have to change. So we would have to remove or redefine strong mayor powers. Executive authority shifts to a city manager. So anywhere where you would see a power for a mayor, as I described in the first slide, under a city manager form of government, the city manager would still be responsible for all the things that our current mayor is. We would just have to change, we'd have to redefine that. So the city manager section, this is something that would newly have to be created. And then that is where council would decide what the qualification and duties and powers would be. Maybe we wouldn't require, maybe we wouldn't need somebody with an advanced degree, or maybe it would depend. We could make those decisions, and cities have a wide variety of how they've gone about doing that and the duties and powers. So we'd have to redefine the mayor role. A lot of these cities still have a mayor, just like Kent. It's a ceremonial role, so we'd have to make a decision there. So likely become ceremonial, or the council president and some fulfill that role. I think in Mentor, that's what they do. The council president makes a tad more money. I think it was like $5,000 or $6,000 more, and then they serve in that ceremonial role as well. So the administrative structure sections would have to change, so department heads transition to reporting directly to the manager, not the mayor. So those things would have to be changed in the charter if we did this going forward. So if we were looking for the ballot, and honestly, if we didn't do it this year, it really wouldn't make sense to do it in the future, because one thing that I would never want to happen, next year is a mayoral election. I would never want to propose this at the same time that we were having a mayoral election, because that is, what a terrible look. And I mean, I think it would be, and honestly, it would be problematic, because what if both of them, the mayor there would be a winner for the mayoral election, and then there would also, what if it passed? And I think that's happened before in Ravenna.
Yeah, it did with the finance director.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened.
Yes.
No, it would be that the charter changes would take effect 4 years later.
Right.
Or,
And
yeah, or when the mayor, was no longer the mayor.
yeah, those are just, I wouldn't want to see this on the same election cycle. And I do know, I mean, when I was on charter review, this came up. I know, Tyler, you said when you were on charter review, it had come up, and for other charter review commissions in the past. So maybe just putting this on the ballot, maybe it fails miserably. Who knows? But at least then that would, this has been an ongoing discussion within various different charter reviews about taking a step like this for the city. And it's up to, anybody's personal opinion about whether or not Ravenna would long-term benefit from a consistent, highly qualified professional manager, or whether every 4 years we just take chances on who's going to run. And like I said, that's, what that looks like for different communities. And we have a mayoral candidate, I think somebody who's planning to run in the audience. And to be honest with you, she has, to me, all of the qualifications of a city manager. So, I mean, that's just out there. But I mean, we might not be so lucky in future elections.
Or we
just
could
run
wind
that
up with a
risk.
situation like the not economic developer, the finance director position, where based on the credentials for someone that would be running for that office, there just wasn't a large pool of candidates that were willing to do it. So we were kind of in a position. Just like if they're.
Sure, I understand what you're saying.
What I'm referencing is, like, if you have a mayor, they have to be a member of the electorate living within the jurisdiction, but a city manager could be hired who is not a resident
Right.
of the city, not a member
Just
of the
like we
electorate.
faced with Tammy's
gives us a
position.
slightly more
The problem with the
flexibility.
finance director position was nobody
Nobody
filed for petitions, because it's a fairly highly skilled position, elected position, that at the time did not pay that well, and there was not an attraction for anybody to do that.
I want you to
but I don't know
bookmark
if
that
that-
for the
I don't know if
law
that-
director discussion.
Yeah, and that's probably inappropriate, because it's next on your agenda.
Yes.
Correct.
Probably more of an issue for that than it is, because the mayor, I think the only qualifications are that you need to be a resident, and I think you have to have a high school diploma.
Don't you have to be 21 in Ravenna?
Oh,
You
I
have
didn't
to have
think
been
that-
voting in an election for 3 years.
You have to be registered.
Oh,
to vote.
maybe, I don't know, I'd have to
Or
look it up.
registered to vote for 3 years. Basically, it makes it so that you have to be 21.
Well, I think personally what we all need to have an opinion on, because it's going to be a decision that if it moves forward, we're all going to have a say on this. And I think it's something that I know, taking away, looking at the person who could be the mayor, looking at the position, and you see the position through the years. I've been on council the longest, and I've seen changes in every administration. And, there's pros and cons, and I'm sure there's pros and cons as what you've listed. But I think with the growth that we have had since I started until now, the changes and the consistency, I think, are important personally. And I fear that what if it became a popularity contest, or, somebody else, the person who could be qualified, something happens and they can't run, and then it's something, we look at our safety forces, we look at union negotiations, we look at, our building department, street department. It is quite terrifying to think of what could happen. And, we've seen where communication has been an issue. We've seen where lots of inter-office stuff, there's been people in positions that maybe shouldn't have been in positions, and because of politics, things have never got either resolved or, it can go on and on. But I think if you had somebody that had the experience and knew how to run a city down the road, that I think it's more of a safety issue for our residents, our staff. I've had several of the administrative staff come to me, and, they all feel, well, not all, but the ones the three that have came to me, they are in support of it. They've seen the changes. They've felt that, we're ready and that we're growing, and this is something that's needed. So I think it's something that we ultimately let the residents decide and see what they think.
And that's what you are getting with a city manager. You're getting consistent, professional, qualified leadership. You are not always going to get that with a mayor. And Ravenna is in just such a spot where, that's going to become imperative to have to move forward. And a lot of times city managers are very prolific grant writers as well, and they have those relationships.
It's a 40-hour job too. And
yes, and that's the other
thing, a mayor could come in here now and work 10 hours a week and go home, and there's nothing we can do about that.
Well, and that's another benefit, is this would be full-time, somebody here consistently. And I agree about the communication, because I just want to bang my head up against the wall sometimes with, how we don't hear things we should be hearing, and how we communicate this to the public is very problematic. And it would be nice, and in my mind, worth the money to not have to deal with those headaches, and to know that all of the departments are able to run at maximum efficiency because they're under that consistent leadership. But, ultimately, like I said, I think that the voters should get a say on that. And I can't stress enough, not during the year of a mayoral election, because I don't want to make this about a person. It is about the position. And obviously, this was something I advocated when I was on charter review and came up in other charter review commissions as well. So this is absolutely a discussion about the position.
Mrs. Lodato, if I could.
Sure. You can.
As you've said, the charter review commissions have looked at this multiple times and have made the decision not to. I do not say that we shouldn't examine this. We can examine it. We can look at that. However, I believe at this time, going straight from council to the voters, the time is not right. Because as you say, you don't want to do it during the time of a mayoral election. I don't believe you can get all of these things in place here
Here, can you move it one
Pro-
slide, because I have the timeline.
prior to November. I don't think so. The other thing is, I think it's very important that the mayor comes from being a city resident. I'm not against, talking about it, but I think that's really an important thing. Our last three mayors, I think, have done a fine job. All have come from council. That's not to say that, who's to say that it can't be a avenue for a mayor in the future. So lots to think about, just some thoughts that I have at that time. I don't want to belabor the point about cost, because you've adequately said it would be an increased cost. Specifically what it would be, we don't have to argue about at this time.
It would definitely be 6 figures.
So to follow up on Dr. Calfee's point,
If you guys could be quiet, it picks up on this microphone, please.
So when it comes to the planning effort, like how do we put this together? I downloaded our charter and I did a search on mayor and it comes up 62 times. We're talking about a massive overhaul of the charter to make this, and then that's just dealing with the word mayor and how it appears and what it means when it appears. What happens, the addition is how do we include a city manager and all the decision-making that goes behind that. And then the complications of seeing this on the ballot. I mean, is there a book when you go to vote to see all these changes? I'm not sure how all that works. And maybe that's the Steubenville model we need to look into.
Well, in other communities, even Kent didn't start with the city man. Many of those cities on that list did not start with the city manager. So
Sure,
some of them did. Like where I grew up, Mentor was always council manager. We never had a mayor.
I'm just curious what it looks like when voters go to see these amendment for the charter.
It looks like a hot mess, Rob. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna be honest with you.
It might be complicated.
When you have to feed
And
the
I
book
think,
into
and
the
I think to
ballot
Dr.
box.
Kalfe's, I would like to speak to that with the charter reviews, because I mean, this is something, the day that we were discussing this in my charter review, that is the meeting that the mayor came to, and he sat right there, and he told us that he was planning to rerun. So then, we all felt extremely awkward continuing that discussion with him sitting there, and like, because then it did sound, then any future conversation during that meeting, I think I speak for a lot of us that would feel like it was very personal when it wasn't. So that is why it dead-ended there with that charter review.
Yeah, well, I mean, I go back to 2001, when Paul Jones was mayor, and the discussions were put to a halt quick. And by the way, it wasn't the meeting he showed up on. He showed up on every meeting of that Charter Review Commission. I believe next year, a year from now, we will have a Charter Review Commission. So I don't know about your timing, but
I'd like to
they
put it
may,
out there.
they may engage in this discussion and bring it forward to council. My personal opinion is, I'm not opposed to this initiative by any means, but I think it looks better when it comes from the Charter Review Commission than it's from the people. It's the people who created the charter who now get to make recommendations on how it should be changed. And I've always said when I was a council member and voted on any issues brought from the Charter Review Commission that I would blanketly support whatever they put forward, because I thought I thought it's kind of awkward to have the council actually approve their recommendations. I just,
yeah.
so if they did next year make the suggestion, even though it's a year when there's a mayoral election, I would hope the council would take it seriously. And you know, those are the things you have to look at. You're making an argument of changing the form of government and taking the personalities out of it. That's the only way it's going to get accomplished. And if every Charter Review Commission faces that personality issue of, oh, I want to continue to be mayor, and so we're going to back off, then we'll never get it done.
Yeah, and I think that just the sheer volume of the work that's required, just as the diligence to go through, like how many ordinances will we need to make changes for after, like the charter's the governing document, but we still have so many things that say this reports to the mayor, or the mayor takes action in this capacity. So there's a lot, just the volume of work, and like, what are the methods to do it? What's the best way to do it? Also
And you have to
factors.
wait for the charter changes to be approved before you can change the code.
Yeah, and you have
there's-
7
I've done a
months
search
during a
there, and there's
charter.
even more references to the mayor in our code.
Yeah, but you have, like, if you're on charter review, even if, you get organized fast, you get started, you have 7 months to get through the entire city charter, to review everything and give it the same level, hopefully, of, like, dedicated concern and thought that's needed for the governing document, literally, of a city. That's a lot of work, and if you're doing the whole document in 7 months, and you have to have those things in by, like, July 1st or so, July 31st, like, I think the reason why it's never come out of the charter review is just because there's just not enough time to do that much level of work. Because we set a deadline for the folks on that commission. They have to deliver those recommendations by a date. And if you don't have time to eat the elephant, then the elephant stays where it is.
And I want to add that I was on charter, Dr. Calfee and Tyler and myself
Back
were
in
all on
17,
charter
yeah.
together. And I think that was one of the main reasons for me was like, here I am, first time doing anything with the city. And here's the whole charter. Good luck. You have 7 months. And, it's like, that was a huge change. So I think that was probably a holdup for a lot of us, that it's a big decision to make. And I think could be, and this is just my assumption, a lot of reasons that other charter reviews in the past have looked at it and said, I don't know. So, it was a lot. It was very overwhelming.
Well, one suggestion, we're going down this path, and if there's council members wanting to engage in reviewing the charter to make what they think are the necessary changes to, have a city manager, that information could be prepared on behalf of the Charter Review Commission in advance.
Yeah, because that's not a reason for the charter not to do if it's something that would benefit the city, or that's not a reason to me to say I'm not going to do it because it's too much work.
And that's not that's not where I went with it. It was just, we worked on, there were so many things to do.
There was no sense of
Right, it
priority.
wasn't the only
Literally,
thing.
It wasn't the only thing,
The clerk
so.
comes in, drops a box, says, here's the last 20 years' worth of reviews. Good luck and get started. You guys need to
Right.
appoint a chair. And then if you guys recall, our chair disappeared after the first meeting, and then the recommendation was made, and that led to part of me being here. But like, there's just so much to do. When I was the chair of the 17 Review Commission, what would have really been helpful for that role was just knowing what are some of these things that council members know that are systemic organizational issues or challenges that they're facing, because it's members of the public that are on this commission, and they aren't always sitting in these chambers with us every time we have something worth of merit or a challenge, or even our legislative process as opportunities for improvement. But if they don't know what the problems are, how can they possibly make recommendations about how to fix them? I feel like the whole premise is, it's good, it's nice that it's objective, and that, like, in council went out of their way in the past, from my experience, not to have any type of influence, or like, we don't want to say anything that would shape the public's review of our charter. But I also feel that we didn't set them up for success by not giving them a framework of helping understand what it is and if it's even effective for the things that it's doing. So I think that we could prepare, like, hey, these are some issues and problems. This is where they relate to in the charter. Well, just give them something to start with,
As we're thinking through it, many of these issues that you brought up, Ms. Lodato, we have to find what we as a council would want to see. For example, the elected mayor, what will he be? Will he be ceremonial only? In some places, that's what he is. In other places.
Why he?
That elected official.
And that's all my comments for today. Thank you.
We have a couple comments from,
I'm teasing, Paul. Hold on.
no, I thought you were finished.
So I think that's a big thing. In other places where they've gone to it, the elected mayor has become council president and actually has a lot of authority and works with council as the council president. So, what would we say we want? What's our recommendation for that? That's something that would have to be talked through and discussed.
Well, I'm glad we're having the discussion, and I know when I brought this up before, I said, even if it doesn't go anywhere, I'm not going to cry over it, but I do think that it's a decision. I know that when I ran for office for this position, that this was a goal of mine, was to bring up this city manager discussion for consideration, but I do respect, especially as a former member of the Charter Review Commission, that I think what they do is sacred to democracy. And
So procedurally, if there's a desire to pursue this, you know, and I hate to think that we're going to become too bureaucratic, but as we've done for other issues, maybe we could form a small group to investigate if there's a will and if there's enough people on council or people beyond council who might be able to participate.
well, if, we have wouldn't, for the November 2026 ballot, that's the timeline. And
Right. But I'm saying rather, because you know how we go around in circles and stuff at these meetings.
Yeah.
If there was a smaller group dedicated to this task, they might be able to be more productive and then be able to bring things periodically to council to see if they're headed in the right direction.
Carmen, do you want to see if anyone in the audience has any questions since
Yeah.
Larry had raised his
Mr.
hand?
There were a couple.
go ahead.
Larry Selenius, 123 North Walnut. I noticed on your list of cities that have city managers, there is not one of the biggest cities. No Akron, Toledo, Youngstown, Warren, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, none of them have a city manager. So why would a little city like Ravenna need a city manager?
Their councils are different
Yeah.
on how they run the city. Their council members get paid like
They're
$60,000,
full-time
$80,000
jobs,
a
yeah.
year. It's completely different.
I think Cleveland has 16.
They run their area and they have a whole regime of people that work underneath them. So it's run a lot different, Larry.
And Cleveland's a very messy example too, because in Cleveland, the mayor of the city also has powers over the school district. It's a complete mess up there with how that's entangled. But so the argument would be that they are more functionally effective for smaller communities.
Well, then it sounds like you've got even more work to do to design the changes.
I've never been afraid of hard work.
But just to clarify, I did a quick search. Phoenix, Arizona, San Antonio, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Charlotte, North Carolina, San Diego, Austin, San Jose. There are large cities that do have city managers. Maybe not in Ohio, because I noticed none of them were in Ohio.
No.
But it's not. I think it can be applied to large cities. I don't know that that's if it's only for smaller governments.
Well,
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this too. Back to the timeline idea, a November election, anything that's on the ballot has to be completely ready to go 90 days before.
Yeah, early August.
I have it up there.
Okay, you got it, okay.
Who else had their hand up?
Good point.
We have, yes.
I guess the rest of my point was would you be ready with all the things that had to be changed in May, June, July?
You'd underestimate me if you didn't think I didn't already have that ready.
Because it still has to come for a vote from council.
Oh, council.
And by the way, we'd be foolish if we did this without a major effort to get public opinion on this. So, public hearings, meetings, whatever.
That was the concern in 17, many people were interested in pursuing it, and we even interviewed David Ruler when he came in. But the whole thing was, even if we proposed that to council, a lot of us sitting there were going, we don't think that, we've spent 7 months on the charter, just one document. And even if we do want to support this, we don't think that the residents will fully understand the immense complexity to restructuring a government. But that was the challenge, was we didn't feel we had enough time as well to communicate all of these complex ideas over time to the point where they could be understood and educated decisions could be made in the ballot box about that.
I don't disagree with any of these points.
Barb had something.
Did you want to come up and say something?
Barb Niemiller. I was on Charter Review with Rob. Yeah, in 2001. And I don't think that we were necessarily against a city manager. We were pretty much bullied into not looking at it. I still have the folder at home with all the letters and the paperwork, letters that were coaxed out of different people to tell us how they were really, really against it, from a guy who eventually went to jail. So.
Do you also remember who else was on our commission?
I do remember a couple people, yeah.
Do you remember the mayor's wife was on the commission?
What?
Yep.
No pressure.
And I don't remember whether it was ours or a subsequent commission said no relatives of anybody who works in the city.
2017.
Oh, you
We
guys
actually
did.
discussed that in 22. We went back to this nepotism thing in the, into the charter.
It's like, how
Oh my
much can
God.
you
Yeah,
remove
so I
that?
think it's worth looking at. And my other point was, when you gather, obviously several people know, you pick how many times you meet a week. And maybe if there's an understanding from the get-go that this is going to take a lot of work, if we're looking into it and working on it, maybe people can dedicate a little bit more time. I know it's hard, but
Yeah, the
Yeah.
group project factor does play a role. Not everyone does their homework all the
That's
time.
true.
So.
You know, and there's one key thing that could help expedite it too.
If you say AI, I'm
You said it.
I was thinking it.
Perfect.
I'm not going to deny that
implementation.
AI has some purposes that are for the good.
Yeah. Well, again, I'll offer the ability to create a council committee if there's enough interest in
think? What
forming
is-
such a committee.
I mean, from Christina and Amy, what do you think?
I'm okay. This is something that I've thought we should look into because of the years of what I've seen in different events that I think would make the city better and stronger as what we've progressed. So I'm, this is something that I feel is time. So that's my opinion.
Well,
as president, I could create a committee. We don't need to go through any formal process. But I would just ask, let me know informally, email me.
Well, I'd like to hear
Whatever.
Christina's comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So, obviously, I've sat in on charter review before, and I just feel like forming a committee, kind of looking into this more, helps us make an informed choice moving forward to whether, to go one way or the other. I think it kind of helps to kind of look, do a deeper dive.
Well, whatever, I don't think it'll happen then for 2026, it sounds like.
Yeah, no.
Because, to be honest with you, I'm pretty, deep with the redistricting committee, and I am a teacher, and I'm forced to go to meetings all the time, and I just don't know if I could do another meeting on the schedule at the moment.
Okay, so this doesn't, since it doesn't require council action, I'll just ask
Yeah.
informally for
Yes.
people to contact me and even people from the public. And if there's seemingly enough interest, if there's a core group of people who tell me they're interested in serving on this committee, then I'll put it together.
Okay.
And if there is the public interest there, then I would, love to somehow be a part of that or offer what I've already done going through the charter.
Yeah, nobody's what's it? term?
You're not being voluntold.
Voluntold.
Yeah, you've done enough work on it. It's, it's
Yeah.
there. And like you said, the charter, when the next charter comes up too, you have
Why
this
does it have to
information.
be during a mayoral election year? That's just,
Well, we can suggest to that charter group that they recommend changing when that happens, so it doesn't align with,
yeah, that's,
so on and so forth.
yeah, it's just got a bad look. All right, so can we move on to the next one, because it's sort of similar in nature, and this one I do think that we could get on the ballot for November. And I think that it is, I feel a sense of urgency with an appointed law director versus an elected law director. So, and this wouldn't involve such labor-intensive review of our charter and changing things to do this. And I know that we alluded to this in the city manager discussion about what happened with the finance director position, that transition from an elected to an appointed. So an appointed law director, I mean, in my mind, the best benefit is that they don't have to run in an election. And this widens the pool. Maybe there are qualified people in the city of Ravenna that are lawyers and have always dreamed of being one for the city, but they don't want to run in an election, and I can't say I blame them. Because you have to fundraise, you have to go out there, you have to get the signs, and it kind of limits prospects of what types of candidates. But the biggest, to me, the plus of doing an appointed law director is that you are going to hire the best person for the job, and you're hiring on experience and expertise, which frankly, I think that that is something that we could not help but benefit from. They're full-time on site to allow to meet with the needs of the city. We also have issues if we stick with an appointed model. What if nobody runs for the position? Or even worse yet, somebody that might be detrimental in that position because an elected law director does not answer to the mayor, does not answer to council. And so I think that, I mean, I really honestly cannot think of a downside to having this. I'm really surprised that this transition hasn't been made before, but I think that Ravenna is headed in a direction with the types of projects that we do and the ways that we want to expand and operate, that we really need to have, we need to know that we have the best person in there for the job with the expertise and experience that we're looking for, and not rely on election cycles to provide that.
Just like we did with IT.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's hard when I know, especially even with the building department, when an attorney is needed, sometimes we don't know because they don't have set hours, you know, and it's hard when you're elected. Again, most elected positions, they don't have designated times, so you're constantly either waiting or you don't know if this person, you know, the set schedule, whether they're going to be out of town. There's just a lot of things that we're also using outside services for because of different specialties that are going on in the city. I'm not saying some of that wouldn't continue, but I think that as much as we've needed an attorney, I think having our own available when we need it more often than not, I think it's much better to have, the pool opens up more too.
Yeah.
I know that with city manager, you really looked at a lot of information. With this, have you looked at like an average of what an appointed law director would be paid because of the full-time position compared to what we have now?
It's more than what we're paying.
That's a lot
But here's the thing, it's like, in a way, though, then there's some trade-off, because then you're not using so many outside,
resources.
Yeah, how much have
outside
we
legal
spent?
services, so it
Yeah.
kind of offsets that cost. Diminishes lawsuits you potentially get into. So for example, in pretty much every city council meeting I've been to in any other city, which is a lot of them, the law director is present in every single meeting. So, and they're kind of guardrails that if council's kind of heading in a direction that might be problematic, litigation-wise, they're always shutting it down, saying, you know, well, we need to say it this way, or they know the charter back. I know we have Rob over there, and he knows it too, but I'm just saying, but the law director's supposed to be there when there's when there's any type of procedural question or conflict, and we really don't have that, and we need it. These are things that, again, could potentially cost us money in litigation down the road, and just having that availability and consistency there, honestly, I do know that it would be an increased cost up front, but then with that trade-off that you're not going outside of the city for legal counsel so much, so it would be a wash in my opinion.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that calculation. I've looked up in the Occupational Outlook Handbook, lawyers make on median average, or median salary, 150,000, we're talking about more, well more than doubling the commitment.
I don't want to look at
salary.
medians because I can tell you right now that I know what some of the local law directors make and they don't make that much. So
Well, I mean, you get
I
what
would
you pay
like to
for,
get,
right?
I would like to get data on that. And you do get what you pay for. And I honestly think that when it comes to a good legal, consistent, always there, all the time, I honestly, I think it's worth whatever you'd spend.
That may be true. I want to make just one comment, and I found in my time, especially as president, but also as a council person, that our current law director does a fine job. I mean, you know, I get being elected for this type of position usually means the lawyer has another job, right? Another practice, and this is kind of an add-on. And I would, you know, that's true for our current law director. But I find him to be responsive. I find him to be very collegial from my perspective. I don't know what the next one will be. I think we do owe some gratitude that he's stayed in this position for so long, because we're going to be losing huge, you know, historical memory when both our mayor and our law director are no longer, you know,
I'm not
in the
bringing this
positions
up
they
as any type of personal
No, I know that.
thing.
I just,
about
I
the law
wanted to say
director.
that.
Because we know he's not running again, so
Right.
we're trying
Yeah,
to be
that's-
proactive
No,
and
don't get me wrong.
We're
I'm not against this change. I just want to make, but I wanted to make that clear, that, you know, I certainly have thought Mr. Semino's done an excellent job.
I would second that. I think Mr. Semino has done a excellent job, and he's been doing it for, I think, either 45 or 50 years. 50 years. So he's been doing it for 50 years. So when you talk about experienced and knowledgeable and competent, all those things, that's good. That said, I believe that I'm in favor of an appointed law director. I think that it's, for multiple reasons. I think then they're appointed, they work directly under the mayor and council. They're more accountable in that way. I would be completely okay with an appointed law director. I do not think that we would be able, that it would be a good model to pay them for full time. I do not believe there's enough work to justify a $150,000 salary and $40,000 of benefits. Even with a lawyer that we appoint, they will call in other lawyers to handle cases outside their specialty. I have seen that over and over and over. So, and I think if we look around at a lot of our surrounding communities, they do have appointed law directors in almost all of them, and I don't believe any of them are full-time. So that's my thoughts on it. I think it'd be fine to have an appointed law director.
I wouldn't disagree that a lot of them aren't full-time, and even if it's part-time, but it's somebody that that's qualified in God, not asking them to run in an election, that's just so awful to have to take. I mean, in that sense, I mean, for that kind of a job, I mean, lawyers, they can take anything they want. I mean, I don't care who the lawyer is, they're going to take less money being a law director for a city than they would in a private practice. So asking them to do that and saying, oh, yeah, and by the way, every 4 years, you're going to have to run an election to reapply for this job. I mean, it's not very enticing. And I'm glad that we've had somebody willing to do it for so long. But, I mean, now that's going to be coming to an end, I think it's a better move for the city strategically to do that. Is there somebody from the audience, Mr. Soto?
We had the same situation not too long ago, didn't we? Worked out pretty damn good over here. Okay. But that said, you don't know what you're going to get after Mr. Semino doesn't run. He's been here for 50 years, and he's made it clear he's not going to be here. You don't know what you're going to get. And isn't it, am I correct in saying if you're elected, the only way to get rid of somebody is recall them?
Yes.
Okay? And if you're appointed, you could be fired probably, correct?
Right.
So there's another plus in my mind of the situation, because you don't know if you're going to get the same situation you had with Mr. Semino for 50 years. You have no idea. You have no idea who's going to want the job. I was just quoted $478 an hour for a lawyer. Okay, so there's a lot, if they can find those jobs, there's a lot of more money to be made there. What are you going to get here? But I'm all for appointing it, though.
Okay. So is there anybody else, or would even like the committee feel comfortable moving this to committee of the whole for appointed law director for the November 2026 ballot?
I think we should move it forward.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
I think there might be some further discussion that had to take place about, I think if you look in the charter, what the qualifications are, the law director has to be from the city.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an
Well,
electorate
yeah, I mean,
requirement.
And so, do we want that? I'm not necessarily in favor of saying
No.
it has to be from the city. You know, if it comes up and we've got this open position and there's somebody from the city that wants to do it, then they're a candidate for it, and the mayor will look at them to appoint or not. You know, we're still going to get those people, if they have an interest, will show themselves. So I don't know if you want to limit it to somebody that lives in Ravenna is all I'm
I'm
saying.
not in favor of limiting it, but, and that is because we are in such a small city comparatively defined. I did call the Bar Association, asked them if they had databases of people who, like, trying to find out how many live in the city limits, but they said they don't keep those types of records. So I don't know how many there are in Ravenna, but I'm going to guess there's not so many to pick from that there'd be a huge pool.
I mean, those are questions you're going to have to resolve before a ballot initiative goes forward, because it's going to have to be on the ballot. And again, there are charter sections on the law director.
Well, we can discuss that in committee of the whole, correct? Or does it have to stay in this committee to do that?
Well, I guess so the purpose of the committee vote at this point is to ask the law director to prepare an ordinance. But what are you asking him to prepare is the question.
For an appointed law director.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just.
We want it,
that's like
it
with
doesn't
no
have to be in
residency.
Ravenna. There's no residency
Yeah,
restrictions.
you just don't put a residency restriction
No,
in
but what
there.
I'm saying is,
not-
normally in a situation like this, an ordinance, to get what you want done, is going to have the details, what we're changing in the charter.
Yeah, it's like me telling Bob to build a building. I
Well,
have to tell him
cannot
what
Frank
type and
Semino
what
do that?
details.
Because I feel like as a
Well,
council person, I shouldn't
Didn't
comb
we-
the charter and suggest
didn't we
those
just do this
changes.
with the finance director?
Yeah.
Recent.
Yeah.
This same procedure, didn't we do that with the
Yeah, I don't
finance
remember
director?
exactly the procedure.
I don't remember what we changed.
5, 6 years ago now, yeah.
Yeah, but we did it there, and so isn't that a model for what we could look
I guess,
at?
but I don't remember how it was
Yeah.
handled, that's my point.
Well, I know that Mr. Semino will, because he would have had to have guided us through that process, correct?
Yeah.
I think this one's going to be a lot more simple than ever proposing a city manager, because I can only imagine the law director's not mentioned dozens
no,
and
it-
dozens of times in our charter.
It's going to be a lot easier to do this, because it's not changing the form of government.
No.
But I'm just not sure what he's going to prepare, if he doesn't have the details that you're going to.
I don't
include in
understand
there.
what kind of details you want when we've already said there's no residency restriction. So, I mean, obviously, to be a lawyer and practice law, you have to have a valid law license and you have to have a Juris Doctorate in law.
Who chooses the law director?
Yeah,
Who's
who
who's
chooses
in
the law
power of
director? Is it a confirmation?
Well, we have a
What's this-
strong mayor form of government in our charter, so I believe according to the Ravenna City Charter, the mayor would appoint.
Well, again, we're changing the charter to enable this. We can do it however we want. That,
I mean, I always prefer mayor appoints, council confirms, because that is how our
Yeah, double check.
constitution is set up for checks and balances. In every level of government, the executive appoints and the legislative confirms. So, I mean, I'm always a fan of that model. And maybe we,
Currently, council only confirms the payroll ordinance, not the hiring of that person.
yeah.
But when the mayor appoints people to the boards and stuff, we do have to okay him at the end. So there's,
it
There's
depends. Yeah. I guess my point I'm making is there are details that need to go into this ordinance
Could
that we
he
haven't really formed yet.
Could he prepare a few sample ordinances? I mean, only for the sake of time, that, again, the timeline is the same for this as it would be city manager. So this has to be ready for first read by June.
Well,
I don't want to
ask
wait
AI.
another month to sit here and look at a simple detail. I mean, I think mayor appoints, council confirms.
Yeah, I agree.
okay.
I was
well,
trying to look in the charter to see how we have it with the finance director, and the copy of the charter that I pull up
Still has them as elected.
still has them elected.
Oh, geez.
Did you look on our website?
Well, I guess, I don't know what's in the charter right now, is what all I'm
Elected.
saying.
I'll tell you what, it's up to the committee. If the,
It is updated?
I don't think it is.
no, what's on our website is you have to go to the American, whatever.
You have
it's
to go to
called.
wherever.
American
they-
Legal Publishing.
Yeah, and they'll have the updated charter.
Why on earth, if this was 5 or 6 years ago, is that not updated on the website?
I don't know, you have to talk to the people who update the website. If the committee wants to move this forward, then we can have a discussion at the committee of the whole, and maybe we can, in the meantime, whoever can iron out some of the details, look at the charter, what it says about law directors, and what specifically you want to have changed. But ultimately, it's going to require kind of a red line approach to how we want to change the charter.
Right, and I can talk to Mr. Semino about that.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay.
sure that he can have something ready by that time. But like I said, this is something that is now, if we're looking at November 2026, I mean, Frank's not rerunning. And so next year, we won't have, I want this in place before then. I think that's what's best for the city.
I mean, in the event of a vacancy, section 2 of it specifies that council will, shall, by the concurrence of the majority of its elected members, choose his or her successor to serve his or her unexpired term until the beginning of a duly elected, as, you know, for the law director's position. So if no one runs, we still have to appoint the position anyway, whether or not we get that through.
So that's an interesting
But we might
question
also get someone.
for all of council
Yeah.
to make, whether or not you want to just do what, because if you use the model of the finance director, we did have an election. So, and when we found out nobody wanted to run, that's when all those changes were put in place. We could wait and see if anybody runs a year from now and then make the changes, or we can change it now, but, and that's fine. If the committee wants to move it forward, then we can request this. I just think it's a little bit of a bigger haul than most ordinances for the law director to make such a major change in such a spur of the moment.
The current
Yeah,
charter
tell 'em what the current
reads
is,
for
yeah.
finance director, there shall be a finance director who shall be appointed by the mayor with the consent of a
Consent of
majority of the
council.
members of council.
So-
Finance director shall have qualifications as may be fixed by ordinance. That's all it says.
I don't see a problem with Mr. Semino in a month's time being able to put this together, especially when there's a recent example. And I don't think that we should wait to see who runs, because I'd frankly rather pull my fingernails out with rusty pliers than do that. So I think that it would be nice if we could get this moved forward.
Well, I don't see it as that dramatic a change. There could very well be qualified lawyers who wanting to run in the city, and that's the way
Well-
our current charter does read.
What are the wishes of my committee? Is it to move it forward to council of the whole?
I would like to, yeah, please.
We would like to move this forward using the finance director
As a model.
as a
for-
model. Thank you for looking that up.
Yep.
You realize you're giving all power to the mayor.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like, this is moving a huge consolidation of
And
power.
right now, a tracking sheet is signed by the mayor, finance director, and service director. That's, in essence, the mayor signing every tracking sheet by himself.
Yeah, but we're also changing so that the mayor, the city manager will be the.
As it sits,
You know that's not gonna
Well, that did, yeah, that
I know.
didn't go forward.
I'm kind of being a little,
happen in 6 months.
I'm just saying, it's ironic that at this moment in time, we're giving more power to the mayor, but then we're also talking about getting rid of the powers of the mayor.
I happen to live through a mayor that took advantage of that power
Yep.
and went to prison for it. So I would like you guys to consider consider handling the law director position yourself and not give that power to a mayor.
I'm okay with
That's a
that.
good suggestion. Yeah.
I like that.
Because there's more of us account.
It puts the staff in a bad spot too. We have no protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are checks and balances, but those checks have bounced and somebody sometimes leans on the balance.
And again, I appreciate because you've been here a long time too, and that's kind of what I brought up about the city manager. Staff is concerned on who's going to be the mayor.
The law director position and the city engineer position went to the charter review. The city engineer position got put on the ballot, but the law director position didn't. 06 or 08, whenever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's been discussed. It is a good time to do it. I don't disagree. It would be nice to have somebody, even if we pay by the hour, to be there. And also, last thing I'll say, council pays Mr. Semino's secretary to a nice chunk of money a year, supplements that.
Yeah, well, we'd have to do that anyway. I mean, we'd still have to have a
Something that has to
secretary.
be considered. Who would work with this lawyer? Would the city have an administrative assistant to work specifically as it currently does?
Like a paralegal, for example.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good question, and I think it depends on, is it a full-time position? Is it a part-time position? If it's a part-time position, it's likely a practicing lawyer who's taking this on and using his own secretary, and then
Right.
we would, like we did with Mr. Semino, supplement her pay. We don't pay for her salary.
Yeah, I think the pay is about 27,000 that we
Yeah, I
pay
don't
for
remember the
that.
total, but that doesn't cover her entire salary.
No, it doesn't, but that's the portion we pay, I think
And
it's
we don't
about
pay
that much.
benefits, so
Right.
it's, a lot of cities have a secretary or paralegal devoted to that, and it would cost us a lot more money.
I still say send this to committee of the whole, and that gives us a month to look into those things, and I would definitely take your comments into consideration because you have that historical knowledge. Amy does too.
I
would
agree.
just need to find some type of precedent for that, like how that would be written.
And I will mention, what Mr. Finney just mentioned. I remember, I want to make sure I say it the proper way and not mention any names. The individuals involved back then, before that happened and during that mess and then after, I didn't like what happened. I won't even go into none of the details, but I remember that diligently. And that's a good idea.
I think we need to address it to a major concern is the consolidation of power and in the disenfranchisement of the voters themselves. Because when we had the finance director and all these different things, it was the public who was deciding, not a strong mayor is often just describing the power dynamic for like that executive stuff. But one concern is if we have all of these different appointed entities reporting to the mayor, this, if the mayor is doing something, not our mayor in this particular instance, but if a person in that role does something illegal, immoral, other than moral, like if a council member doesn't show up to 3 members at a council meeting, that can be terms for removal. Otherwise, we have to engage in moral turpitude, and to those who don't know legalese, that is murder to get removed. So it's like what is the threshold for bad behavior that we do not want to see, fraud, waste, and abuse that does no place in public service? How do we stop if one person appoints, even if it's confirmed, that's a significant amount of financial power. And if you are appointed and you do something if that mayor doesn't like, well, guess what? Your job's on the line, even if you have the public's best interest and ethics on your side.
And again, these can be
These are
sorted
risks.
out. Number one, it could be a council-appointed position. Number two, it could be a mayoral appointment with council confirmation, which would require council to approve the position. 3, it could be a position that the mayor can't fire without confirmation from the city council. We can build in protections.
But then we could also run into the issue where the mayor is only appointing or recommending one person for it. Council doesn't approve that. And what happens, look at all the federal
Dysfunctional government.
agencies that are barely staffed and functioning. that are supposed
I
to be
will
doing
meet with Mr.
taxpayers.
Semino, and I would like
Okay.
to pick his brain on how he feels we can proceed with this and build in those protections. I mean, I do think it's a lot of pressure on our mayor that, you know, it's set up differently elsewhere, that even when it comes to the charter review itself and all of our boards and commission, the mayor's responsible for all that. The mayor's technically responsible for finding all the people in this city for all these boards and commissions. And it's just not like that set up everywhere else. In other places, you know, the wards and the wards council people especially, you have to have so many representatives from each ward. You can't have you could theoretically, in Ravenna, you could have a charter review commission, all of people that live in Ward 1. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So in a lot of places, it's set up where the mayor has a certain number of appointments, but then council also has a number of appointments, and it has to be balanced, so that way you have fair representation. And I brought these things up when I was on charter review, went nowhere.
Well,
So I'm just saying, I'm aware that the way that the Ravenna charter is set up, that there is a lot of inherent power in the mayor position that, you know, could be mitigated, you know, so that council would have more of a check on power. But whatever happened here, I don't even think I was living in Portage County with that other mayor. But I mean, but the thing is after all those terrible things happened, nobody really changed the charter fundamentally, so that it couldn't happen again.
Well,
So I don't know if that's, like, I want to just focus on the law director position and taking all of these comments into consideration, meeting with Mr. Semino. I'm very conscious of the fact that this has to be moving forward and on for a first read by June, or it's just simply not going to happen for this ballot measure.
well, I mean, but your plans seem to be to have it on a first read in May. You're
June, I
moving it-
said. June. It has to be on by June, or
But if it's
too
going
late.
to the committee of the whole, if you've moved it on to the committee of the whole,
Mm-hmm.
that puts it on, assuming the committee of the whole approves it, that puts it on a first reading in May.
Oh, well, that, even better,
Okay,
even better.
that's fine. But again, I will just reiterate, any change, whether it's city manager or law director, that changes the charter has to get 5 votes of council.
Right, and I think that
So-
we've come to a consensus that the city manager is something that's best explored within a charter review commission. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes of this discussion, I feel like it's the wishes of my committee that we move this forward to committee of the whole to at least get the appointed law director on.
And the only final statement I'll make is, since this does require, you know, approval by the residents, I strongly encourage council to consider a public hearing on whatever is crafted, once the ordinance is made. So maybe a first reading in May with no passage, and then sometime in May, a public hearing, so that we get a sense of what the public thinks about this change.
I don't disagree, but
Yeah,
I
and then-
also don't
and then-
think there's going to be opposition to it.
Yeah, well, I don't, but I don't want to assume anything. I mean, if we're going to assume, then we're kind of neglecting the voice of the public. All right, so we settled that issue, right? We're moving it
Yes.
on. You're going to talk to Mr. Semino, and then we'll see how we can put together some ordinance language there.
Okay, the next one, I wish this would have gone first. The Northeast Ohio Disc Golf Grant Award, so. We're moving. This is just, there was a grant applied for that we received, I believe it was for, is it $1,000? Man, I looked at this before. and-
Yep,
Yes, it
No, I
is.
can't
It's
find it.
$1,000.
$1,000 to make the signs that go in front of each tee.
Yep.
For the disc golf. So moving it, do I have the votes to move this
Yep.
forward?
Move it forward.
All right, we're
We're
moving it
good.
forward. Management update, I don't have anything, so I'm adjourning this meeting at 8:42